Chapter 3496. Stubborn Fool. The middle heavenly venerate slapped the armrest and shouted. The Moon City Lord was not going to back down. He knew that he could not back down now. If he did, his status in the Fortune God dynasty would plummet, and he would no longer be able to be compared to his previous self. Middle heavenly venerate, must we do this? The Sky City Lord stepped forward. Although the East Heavenly Venerate had been promoted to the Middle Heavenly Venerate, it didn't mean that he didn't have the right to speak. After all, the Middle Heavenly Venerate was only a deputy lord, not a lord. His authority hadn't reached such a level yet. Although the Moon City Lord has made a mistake, we can let him atone for his crimes with meritorious service. The Sun City Lord also stepped forward and said. The Middle Heavenly Venerate looked at the two of them and sneered. How could he not understand that these two might not really like the Moon City Lord? However, seeing that he had dealt a heavy blow to the Moon City Lord, it was inevitable that they would feel a little sad. Atone for his crimes with meritorious service? Does he look like he's atoning for his crimes with meritorious service? During the last battle, he was the first to run. If my memory serves me right, it was you, the Sun City Lord, who led the army to the end. The Middle Heavenly Venerate sneered. Hearing the Middle Empyrean mention this, everyone finally remembered that during the last battle, this seemed to be true. But at that time, the army had been routed by the heaven-splitting demon axe and countless people had died. Even if the remaining people hadn't died, they had fled in panic. In that chaotic situation, almost no one would pay attention to these things. With the threat of the heaven-splitting demonic axe falling on them at any time, and the armies of various eras chasing after them, no one had the time to think about these things. After returning, this matter was buried in the bottom of their hearts, a scar that they didn't want to mention. At that time, everyone's performance was very poor, and no one was stronger than anyone else. Naturally, they chose to ignore it. And today, hearing the Middle Heavenly Venerate mention it, it seemed to be the case. It was just that they didn't think too much about it before because they were also fleeing frantically. It was just the pot calling the kettle black. What else could they say? However, now that he thought about it, he felt that something was wrong. As one of the few city lords present at the scene, the Moon City Lord did not fight a bloody battle. Instead, he immediately escaped. Now that they thought about it, back in Moon City, he hadn't stayed behind to live and die with the city. Instead, he had brought his people and fled. At first, everyone could understand. As a high and mighty top Empyrean, how could he be buried with the fall of a city? But now that he thought about it, there was indeed something illogical. He escaped twice. Can we count on such a person to atone for his crimes? The Middle Heavenly Sovereign said coldly, not giving any face to the Sky City Lord and the Sun City Lord. He had made up his mind that this time, he would not let the Moon City Lord escape. As the saying went, if you didn't kill a snake, you would suffer. Moreover, the Moon City Lord was not a snake. He was a ferocious tiger, a poisonous dragon. If he didn't die, it wouldn't be as simple as suffering. He had already seen through it long ago. In a situation where he had the upper hand, the Moon City Lord did not lack the courage to fight. However, if he was in an extremely disadvantageous situation, like when Moon City had been breached and the heaven-splitting devil axe had threatened him, he would prioritize self-preservation. This kind of person could not be relied on. Moreover, he was now a Middle Heavenly Venerate and in charge of the Fortune God dynasty. Naturally, he had to be clear about rewards and punishment. The Moon City Lord had committed such a grave mistake, so he naturally had to pay the price. Unclear rewards and punishments were the most important thing for a force. Some ordinary matters could be put aside, but how could they let go of such a grave crime so easily? Moreover, the Moon City Lord had opposed him many times and had even contacted the Sky City Lord and the others. No matter what, he had to stand up and take responsibility. Moon City Lord, you have committed such a grave mistake, and have refused to mend your ways despite repeated admonitions. As the middle heavenly venerate of the Fortune God dynasty, I hereby announce that you will be imprisoned for 100 million years as a warning to others." The middle heavenly venerate's words made the other heavenly venerates suck in a breath of cold air. Being imprisoned for 100 million years was an unimaginably long time even for the heavenly venerate. It was equivalent to a lifetime imprisonment. However, no one felt that there was anything wrong with this punishment. Indeed, compared to the consequences caused by the Moon City Lord, this was indeed nothing. Imprisoned for 100 million years. The Moon City Lord's eyes widened and his face turned ashen. "You? Middle Heavenly Venerate, you merely used a chicken feather as a token of authority. How many contributions have I made to the Fortune God dynasty? I am not convinced." "You have indeed contributed a lot to the Fortune Divine dynasty, but so what? The benefits you've obtained from the Fortune Divine dynasty in these years are not enough. Moreover, nothing you have done can make up for your sin of losing Moon City." The middle heavenly venerate reprimanded bluntly. "You want me to obediently surrender? How is that possible?" The City Lord of Luna City roared. He was not willing to give up just like that. Too many things could happen in 100 million years. It was enough for him to fall out of the top rank. After 100 million years, there would be no place for him to stand. Moreover, he did not feel that he was in the wrong. It was just the middle heavenly venerate's revenge. How could he be willing? However, it was obvious that all the heavenly venerates supported the middle heavenly venerate. He could not find anyone here to support him. With a loud bellow, countless laws swept out from his body. All sorts of dazzling golden and moonlight laws danced in the air, condensing in his hands. With a single strike, it turned into a powerful torrent. It was as if a koan pung had come to life. A single wing could shatter the galaxy as it charged towards the middle heavenly venerate. "How dare you!" The middle heavenly venerate slammed the armrest of his chair in anger. The other heavenly venerates were also shocked. They were shocked by the Moon City Lord's boldness. A middle heavenly venerate was equivalent to a deputy emperor in the Fortune God dynasty. They represented the entire Fortune God dynasty. Resisting and attacking a middle heavenly venerate was equivalent to becoming an enemy of the entire Fortune God dynasty. This was something they had never imagined would happen. Everyone knew how terrifying the Fortune God dynasty was because they were one of them. Naturally, they understood the terrifying strength of the Fortune God dynasty, which was far beyond the imagination of outsiders. This torrent arrived 3 inches in front of the middle heavenly venerate. However, the middle heavenly venerate's body emitted endless golden light of virtue, forming a golden bell that protected him. The Moon City Lord's attack could not harm the middle heavenly venerate at all. At this time, Yi Shiwen, who was watching the battle from the side, suddenly thought of something. He shouted, "Not good! He is going to betray us!" He instantly understood why the Moon City Lord was so bold. He actually dared to attack a middle heavenly venerate. This was clearly just a pretense. Attacking a middle heavenly venerate, not to mention the strength that a middle heavenly venerate possessed, just the fact that he was going against the Fortune God dynasty was enough to make it so that no one could save him. Sun City Lord, Sky City Lord, Western Heavenly Venerate, Northern Heavenly Venerate, and Southern Heavenly Venerate were all present. Any one of them was no weaker than him. How could he escape from these people without using some tricks? It was likely that from the moment the Eastern Heavenly Venerate advanced to the Middle Heavenly Venerate, the Eastern Heavenly Venerate, and the Northern Heavenly Venerate, he had such thoughts. Everything he had said before was merely a perfunctory act. Sure enough, when everyone looked again, they saw that the Moon City Lord had already disappeared. When they opened their heavenly eyes, they discovered that the Moon City Lord had already escaped hundreds of millions of miles away. Not good, stop him. As the Moon City Lord, he knows a lot about our Fortune God dynasty. We can't let him escape. The Western Heavenly Venerate reprimanded. The other Heavenly Venerates also reacted. What kind of existence was the Moon City Lord? In the entire Fortune God dynasty, there were only a dozen people who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. His strength was at the pinnacle of the Fortune God dynasty. Moreover, he held great power and knew a lot of secrets that outsiders didn't know about. The consequences of an expert of this level defecting would be unimaginable. Chase after him, kill him. The Heavenly City's City Lord stomped his foot and prepared to chase after the Moon City Lord. No matter how much he supported the Moon City's City Lord, he knew what he had to do at this moment. The Moon City's City Lord had betrayed the Fortune Divine Dynasty, so he had to draw a clear line between him and the Moon City's City Lord. Don't worry, he wants to leave? It won't be that easy. The Middle Heavenly Venerate snorted coldly and flew out instantly. His speed was so fast that it surpassed the speed of time. He was even faster than the speed of tearing space. Wherever he passed, the space couldn't withstand his speed and crumbled into dust. His speed was so fast that he almost caught up to the Sky City Lord in an instant. Although the Sky City Lord was a step ahead, he was nothing in front of the Middle Heavenly Venerate. The Moon City Lord couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine when he saw that the Middle Heavenly Venerate had caught up so quickly. Although they had some understanding of each other's strength, they rarely fought to the death. These City Lords and Heavenly Venerates all carried heavy responsibilities. The consequences would be unimaginable if they were to suffer any losses. It's useless. In this aspect, you can't be faster than me, the Middle Heavenly Venerate said coldly. His speed was too fast, and the Moon City Lord couldn't catch up to him. The Moon City Lord stopped. Since I can't escape, let's fight. Middle Heavenly Venerate, I know that you have comprehended the origin of the speed law, and there are few who can match you in this world. However, it's impossible for you to defeat me with your speed alone. The Moon City Lord didn't look as miserable as he had been when he had wanted to escape. He had regained his calm demeanor. As a City Lord of one of the 10 great divine cities, how could he not have any trump cards? He was confident that he wasn't inferior to anyone. Although he might not be able to defeat a Middle Heavenly Venerate, it was impossible for a Middle Heavenly Venerate to defeat him. Whether I can defeat you or not, you'll know once you try. You don't have to worry about others attacking you, because there's no need. I will personally suppress you. Chapter 3497. The Middle Heavenly Venerate stood with his hands behind his back. He was like the only true God in the universe. He could create heaven and earth, and he could also destroy heaven and earth. His aura was like a mountain. You want to take me down on your own? Ridiculous, ridiculous, the Moon City Lord said. I might be afraid of you if a few people attacked me together. However, you want to take me down on your own? The Moon City Lord's expression was a bit sinister. He felt like he had been insulted. He was a City Lord of one of the top 10 divine cities, yet the Middle Heavenly Venerate dared to look down on him. Had he forgotten himself after becoming a Middle Heavenly Venerate? Use whatever moves you have. You won't have a chance if you wait for me to make a move, the Middle Heavenly Venerate said. At this time, Yi Shiwen and the others had also caught up. However, they had heard the Middle Heavenly Venerate's words just now, so they didn't make a move. However, they still surrounded the Moon City Lord. In particular, the Southern Heavenly Venerate, the Western Heavenly Venerate, the Northern Heavenly Venerate, the Sky City Lord, and the Sun City Lord each occupied a corner, blocking all the escape routes of the Moon City Lord. However, the Moon City Lord couldn't care less. He had already guessed that he couldn't defeat the Middle Heavenly Venerate, so how could he escape? Then I'll show you, the Moon City Lord roared. Suddenly, countless stone tablets appeared around him. Each stone tablet was engraved with a scripture. Every word of these scriptures seemed to come to life. Ouyang had his own unique vitality. Below these stone tablets there seemed to be a hell. Blood actually flowed from the bottom of the stone tablet. This is your moon steel? You really do have some skill. The middle heavenly venerate didn't care when he saw the stone tablet. However, there was a bit of admiration on his face. Rumor has it that you've suppressed all the powerful enemies you've defeated over the years, as well as the super experts from the ancient era, in the moon prison under the steel of the moon. Now it seems that it's true. All the experts in the moon prison have been suppressed by you. You've absorbed all their power for your use, making you stronger and stronger. The steel of the moon has played a huge role in allowing you to reach this step. Everyone could feel the terrifying explosive power contained beneath the moon's steels. However, the middle heavenly venerate didn't seem to care at all. He was still talking cheerfully. I didn't expect you to know me so well. However, how can hearsay compare to experiencing it for yourself? You still have the time to talk and laugh now. You won't have the chance later. The City Lord of Moon City said coldly. Whoosh! In an instant, as soon as the City Lord finished speaking, a huge stone tablet the size of a mountain suddenly flew up and smashed towards the middle heavenly venerate. During this process, the countless scriptures seemed to come to life, as if they had turned into small people that were imprisoning something. Now that they were completely released, countless terrifying intents rushed out and turned into frightening mystic techniques and spells that bombarded the middle heavenly venerate. This wasn't just the power of the stone tablet. It was also the resentment of the many powerhouses suppressed under the stone tablet. After being suppressed in the moon prison for countless years, the resentment of these powerhouses had already reached an unimaginable level. Now that it was completely released, any stone tablet could seriously injure or even kill a middle heavenly venerate. It was extremely terrifying. This was the true reason why the Moon City Lord could run amok in the world. In the face of such an attack, the middle heavenly venerate wasn't the slightest bit afraid. He stretched out his arms and a dazzling light erupted from his fists. Wisps of immortal light flowed out, making him sublimate to a frightening realm. He took a step forward and his entire body flew out at an extreme speed. Everyone clearly saw his fist land on the stone tablet. Then, with a boom, the stone tablet was instantly smashed into powder. The many super lifeforms and powerhouses of the ancient epochs that were suppressed in the moon prison were also smashed into pieces in an instant. They turned into a sky full of blood mist that scattered in the primal chaos. There was simply no way to stop them. At this time, the middle heavenly venerate finally revealed his figure in the divine light. He didn't move at all and wasn't injured in the slightest. This move was simply useless against him. What a terrifying speed. It's this extreme speed that makes it so terrifying. When the speed reaches a certain level, it's the strongest in the world. It's invincible. Yi Shiwen looked at the two people confronting each other in the primal chaos. The battle just now replayed in his mind. The middle heavenly venerate didn't use any magical power or martial arts. He only relied on his extreme speed to erupt with such amazing power. If it was an ordinary heavenly venerate, he might have been smashed to death by him. Yi Shiwen finally understood why the middle heavenly venerate used all his merit chi to cultivate the body of merit. It was precisely because of the uniqueness of the nomological laws that he cultivated that the speed nomological laws were extremely fast and could kill any powerful enemy. However, the requirements for his physical body were also very high. The physical body of a middle heavenly venerate was already very strong, but it shouldn't be comparable to the body of merit. Now that he had cultivated the body of merit, it could be said that he was like a tiger that had grown wings. It was just a simple method, but there was no way to break it. In terms of speed, it was difficult to compare with him. It was also very difficult to injure a middle heavenly venerate who had cultivated the body of merit. He was innately invincible. The combination of these two simple magical power laws could create such an amazing effect. These top heavenly venerates were indeed not simple. Even the Moon City Lord couldn't be underestimated. His steel of the moon was infinitely powerful. If he hadn't encountered an opponent like the Middle Heavenly Venerate, who couldn't be surrounded and whose numbers couldn't be measured, ordinary people would have a headache. So strong. The Moon City Lord suddenly opened his eyes wide. It seemed different from what he had initially thought. A steel of the moon naturally couldn't stump a Middle Heavenly Venerate. However, it couldn't even simply delay time. This was completely beyond his expectations. As the saying goes, speed is the only thing that can't be broken in the world of martial arts. Now, these two elements were occupied by the Middle Heavenly Venerate. Therefore, it was so difficult to deal with and instantly broke his steel of the moon. This steel of the moon and the lunar prison are indeed good method. However, they aren't yours. If they aren't yours, you will never be able to use them to break through. The Middle Heavenly Venerate seemed to sigh before he attacked again. Whoosh! The Middle Heavenly Venerate's figure disappeared once again. This immediately made the Moon City Lord nervous. In an instant, his entire body was surrounded by all sorts of steels of the moon. The steel of the moon could be used to attack and retreat. It was indeed an extremely powerful method. What was even more amazing was that he could borrow the power of the powerhouses in the lunar prison to suppress and kill his opponent. Unfortunately, he had encountered a Middle Heavenly Venerate. Unless he could surpass a Middle Heavenly Venerate in two areas, he really couldn't do anything to him. While facing the Moon City Lord, who was surrounded by steel of the moon, the Middle Heavenly Venerate didn't do anything else. He just charged forward. Boom, boom, boom. Loud rumbles echoed as the Middle Heavenly Venerate's body was like a rampaging Tyrannosaurus. Just by relying on his extreme speed, he was able to smash everything into pieces. Even the largest steel of the moon in front of the Middle Heavenly Venerate couldn't resist. His speed was really fast and had reached a terrifying realm. In almost an instant, countless steels of the moon were smashed into pieces. Although steels of the moon were constantly transferred over, how could they stop the Middle Heavenly Venerate? In an instant they were completely destroyed. What a terrifying battle technique! The Sky City Lord couldn't help but widen his eyes. Only now did he understand how powerful the Middle Heavenly Venerate's combat strength was. The body of Merit has really made up for his last weakness. From now on, he will be invincible just by relying on his speed and the body of Merit. Although these people hadn't experienced a life-and-death battle, they still had some understanding of each other. Although the Middle Heavenly Venerate's speed was terrifying, his physical body was his greatest weakness. If he encountered an existence with an incomparably powerful physical body, he might even end up hurting himself. Now that he had cultivated the body of Merit, the Middle Heavenly Venerate no longer had this weakness. His combat strength had increased by more than just a little. In the past, even the Middle Heavenly Venerate wouldn't have been able to suppress the Moon City Lord so easily. While the Sky City Lord and the crowd were still in shock, the Middle Heavenly Venerate had already broken through countless steels of the Moon City and rushed in front of the Moon City Lord. The Moon City Lord seemed to have been prepared for this. Middle Heavenly Venerate, did you think that I wouldn't be prepared at all? It's time to end here. The Moon City Lord had unknowingly raised a huge bright moon in his hands, which seemed to illuminate everything amidst the chaos. This bright moon contained all the power in his body. He had condensed it while the Middle Heavenly Venerate was breaking through the steel of the moon. He wanted to seriously injure the Middle Heavenly Venerate in one go. Boom! This bright moon smashed down and engulfed the Middle Heavenly Venerate in an instant. Success! Ha 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 ha! The Moon City Lord laughed heartily. He had finally succeeded. The strength that the Middle Heavenly Venerate had displayed just now had been too shocking. Even he couldn't help but worry. However, before the City Lord of Moon City could finish laughing, endless golden light tore the moon apart. A huge hand reached out from within and grabbed the City Lord of Moon City. The The huge hand was covered with a huge seal character, and the city lord of Moon City was sealed within it. A huge seal formed in the void. Within the seal, the Moon City lord struggled frantically. It looked like he was about to break out of the seal. The middle heavenly venerate's figure appeared and another sealing hand smashed down, instantly reinforcing the seal and suppressing the Moon City lord's struggle. Chapter 3498. What incredible speed! It wasn't until the middle heavenly venerate sealed the Moon City lord that everyone finally regained their wits. Everything had happened too quickly. The middle heavenly venerate had defeated the Moon City lord in a flash and sealed him. It hadn't taken a 1,000-day-long battle to defeat the Moon City lord, as everyone had expected. This had already gone against everyone's expectations. The 10 great divine cities' city lords were on the same level as the eastern, southern, western, and western heavenly venerates. Although there might be a disparity, it shouldn't be this great. Hiss! Just how strong has this middle heavenly venerate become? How many benefits did he reap from the destruction of the 7th Gold Era? This was the first thought that came to the minds of many heavenly venerates after their initial disbelief. What kind of benefits had he obtained to widen the gap between the Moon City Lord and the middle heavenly venerate to such an extent? It must be far more than just the merit energy and the body of merit. Many people guessed that it definitely wasn't that simple. This sort of crushing battle wasn't something that could be caused by a small gap. In just a moment, many possibilities flashed through everyone's minds. How could they not be curious about the benefits that could increase a middle heavenly venerate's combat strength so much? No, the gap between them isn't that great. It's just that the Moon City Lord was restrained and caught off guard. That move could have been a sure kill, but it's a pity that the middle heavenly venerate withstood that move and was able to catch the Moon City Lord off guard. However, the middle heavenly venerate's strength has indeed increased a lot. The Sky City Lord could clearly see that the middle heavenly venerate's combat strength hadn't reached that tyrannical level yet. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. In the end, the middle heavenly venerate hadn't surpassed that level. As long as he didn't reach that level, there wasn't much to worry about. Otherwise, if he had reached that level, then the entire Fortune Divine Dynasty's structure would have changed. Just like the Fortune Heavenly Monarch of the past, no one would dare to go against him, and everyone would have to crawl at his feet. To a peerless figure like him, this was the most unacceptable. That was because they were used to being high and mighty, used to bossing people around. They seemed to have instinctively forgotten about that subservience. However, no matter how shocked everyone was or how the middle heavenly venerate had done it, the middle heavenly venerate had indeed done it. As the saying went, a new broom sweeps clean. This flame had completely ignited the prestige of a middle heavenly venerate. He had casually suppressed a city lord of one of the 10 great divine cities. This kind of shocking performance had thoroughly shocked all the other heavenly venerates. Although it wasn't that he was willing to submit, he didn't dare to play any tricks under his nose. After subduing Moon City's city lord, the Middle Empyrean issued his first order. Since Moon City's city lord had wanted to defect, he was sentenced to be imprisoned for 1 billion years. This was 10 times the original sentence. This was because the consequences of defection were far worse than the fall of Moon City. Now, no one spoke up for Moon City's city lord. Everyone could see that Moon City's city lord had completely lost his power. At this time, anyone who had anything to do with him would be going against the middle heavenly venerate. No one was willing to go head-on against the middle heavenly venerate, who was currently in the limelight, for someone who had lost his power and might not appear again in the future. Now that Moon City's city lord has defected and been suppressed by me, all other heavenly venerates, emperor lords, and everyone else in Moon City will temporarily be under the command of Sun City's city lord. When the new Moon City Lord is elected, they will be under the command of the new Moon City Lord. The middle heavenly venerate didn't kill off the remaining Moon City subordinate. Firstly, not everyone was a direct descendant of Moon City's city lord. Secondly, even the Moon City's city lord had been suppressed, so what did the others count for? Moreover, maintaining the balance between the 10 great divine cities was his responsibility. He couldn't let the new Moon City Lord have no one he could use, right? Yes. The heavenly venerates and emperor lords of Moon City nodded. Many of them even heaved a sigh of relief. Moon City's city lord hadn't been popular in Moon City all these years. His tyrannical ways had made many heavenly venerates and emperor lords feel pressured. Furthermore, this time, because of his personal reasons, their entire clan, which had been based in Moon City, had been razed to the ground. Their entire sect had been destroyed, and their countless years of accumulation had been snatched away by the ancient era. The losses were simply immeasurable. If there was anyone who hated Moon City's city lord the most, it would be them. It was only because Moon City's city lord held a high position and was terrifyingly strong that they had no choice but to swallow this anger. Now that Moon City's city lord had finally been dealt with, they couldn't be happier. Alright, let's return to Sun City now and discuss the creation universe map, the Middle Heavenly Venerate said. At this time, all the Heavenly Venerates knew that they had finally reached this step. In fact, everything that had happened before was merely an accident. Even the craziest person wouldn't have thought that the accident would escalate to this extent, ending with Moon City's city lord being sealed. Activating the Fortune Universe diagram was the most crucial thing. If they wanted to resist the heaven-splitting demonic axe, they had no choice but to activate the Fortune Universe diagram. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to resist the heaven-splitting demonic axe by themselves. Although it was very difficult to mobilize the heaven-splitting devil axe, and every time it was mobilized, the power of a single strike that could destroy the Fortune God Dynasty's army was truly shocking. When they returned to the main hall, all the heavenly venerates and emperor lords took their seats. The middle heavenly venerate looked at everyone with a satisfied smile on his face. In the name of the Fortune God Dynasty's middle heavenly venerate, I announce that we can mobilize the creation universe map. Everyone knows that we absolutely cannot fail in this battle to retake Moon City. Even the creation universe map has been mobilized. If we still fail to retake Moon City, the consequences will be unimaginable. I think everyone understands. Understood. Everyone nodded, expressing their understanding. It's good that everyone understands. I will personally return to the Fortune God Dynasty and bring the creation universe map here. All of you will guard your respective positions, train your troops, cultivate and wait for the enlistment. The Middle Heavenly Venerate said, I won't waste any more words. Time is of the essence. Every minute and every second is crucial. All of you can disperse. Everyone nodded, then turned into streaks of light and disappeared. They also understood the urgency of the Middle Heavenly Venerate's words. Originally, when a Middle Heavenly Venerate was promoted, they would definitely organize a celebration to show their dignity. But now they couldn't care about that. Obviously, they didn't have the time. Since the Middle Heavenly Venerate didn't mention this matter, then they wouldn't mention it either. Alright, all of you return to the encampment first. Yi Shiwen sent Bian Xiaoye and the others back to the human race's encampment, and then went to the Middle Heavenly Venerate's temporary residence. At this time, the War Venerate, Empyrean Silver Moon, Mr. Huang, and the others had already arrived. Those who had rushed over at this time were the direct descendants of Empyrean Venerate. They were also the first wave to come to celebrate. Although the Middle Heavenly Venerate's celebration wasn't in a hurry and could be delayed for the time being, it was still necessary to come and congratulate them. In particular, those who weren't close to the Middle Heavenly Venerate wanted to take this opportunity to become familiar with them. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know that someone was making things difficult for them. After arriving, Yi Shiwen first cupped his hands and said, "Congratulations on becoming a Middle Heavenly Lord. Wu Zun is too polite." The Middle Heavenly Venerate's face was full of smiles. Although victory was already in his grasp, He was still very excited about successfully ascending to the position of middle heavenly venerate. However, he couldn't show it in front of others. However, it didn't matter in front of Yi Shiwen and the others. There was no need to keep a straight face in front of them. This time, I was able to ascend to the position of middle heavenly venerate because of everyone's help. Middle heavenly venerate cupped his hands and said, "Many thanks to everyone. Middle Empyrean, you're too polite." You're welcome. We did nothing more than lift a finger. Yi Shiwen and the others quickly replied politely. "Since we're all on the same side, I won't be too polite." Middle heavenly venerate said with a smile, "I will stay here for a few more days to accept the congratulations of the other heavenly venerates. After that, I will return to the Fortune God dynasty. This time, I will only bring Mr. Huang with me. The others will stay here and help defend Sun City. I guess the news of us using the Fortune Universe map has already been discovered by the ancient era. It's hard to guarantee that they won't take the risk and attack the nearest city, Sun City." Middle Heavenly Venerate had Mr. Huang as his subordinate. The ancient era had also developed many undercover agents and spies in the Fortune God dynasty. Some of the more confidential matters might not be known. However, using the Fortune Universe map was a matter of great importance. It was impossible for them not to know. Therefore, it was reasonable for Middle Heavenly Venerate to be careful. After all, compared to the other divine cities, Moon City and Sun City were the closest and most likely to be attacked. During the time I returned to the Fortune God dynasty and used the Fortune Universe map, all of you should seize the time to train your men. Next, when we attack Moon City, all of you will be the main force. This is my first battle after taking office. There can be no mistakes. All of you are so close to me and everyone is watching. Naturally, you can't just sit back and do nothing. Moreover, this way, I will have a reason to reward you," Middle Heavenly Venerate said. Everyone naturally understood that as the direct subordinates of Middle Heavenly Venerates, they would naturally be the main force in this battle. However, they wouldn't be cannon fodder. Middle Heavenly Venerates wouldn't do something as stupid as weakening their direct subordinate. If they did a good job, they would also get a lot of rewards. Seeing everyone nod, Middle Heavenly Venerate continued, "The last thing is about the position of East Heavenly Venerate." Chapter 3499. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. They knew that the real show was coming. From the beginning, when they knew that the Middle Heavenly Master would fight for this position, they knew that the Eastern Heavenly Master's position might be vacant. After the Middle Heavenly Master's promotion was successful, this was no longer just a hypothesis, but a fact in front of everyone. Especially Yi Shiwen and Silver Moon, who were favored by the Middle Heavenly Master, naturally became each other's competitors. The two of them knew that in order to compete for the Eastern Heavenly Master's position, both sides would inevitably have a fierce battle. The Middle Heavenly Master glanced at everyone and said, "From my selfish point of view, I certainly hope that the Eastern Heavenly Master can be chosen between the two of you, but in fact it will be very difficult. The Eastern Heavenly Master's position is a divine tool that cannot be privately given. I can't give it to whoever I want." Although the Middle Celestial Master was a Deputy Celestial Master, he wasn't someone like the Fortune Creation Heavenly Lord. Therefore, he couldn't be like the Fortune Creation Heavenly Lord, conferring titles to whoever he wanted. Even the Fortune Creation Heavenly Lord couldn't randomly confer titles without considering the actual situation. Let alone the Middle Heavenly Master. At most, he could only recommend and support. Whether or not they could become the Eastern Heavenly Master depended on the efforts of the two. "We understand." Yi Shiwen and Silver Moon looked at each other and understood. When the time comes, it will not be just the two of you who will participate in the competition. The Southern Heavenly Master, the Northern Heavenly Master, the Western Heavenly Master, and even the city lords of other divine cities may nominate their own candidate. These people may become your enemies. Most importantly, The Spacetime Heavenly Master may also compete with you. Although his strength is not considered strong among our group, he is still much stronger than the two of you," said the Middle Heavenly Master. Yi Shiwen and Silver Moon were in awe. Indeed, compared to the others, the most terrifying person was the Spacetime Heavenly Master. Although his performance in the competition for the Middle Heavenly Master's position was like a clown jumping up and down, and then he was slapped by the Sky City Lord and the Middle Heavenly Master. However, in fact, he was a first-class figure who had ruled the vast territory of the Central Region for a long time. Even the strong clans and great sects of the Central Region couldn't do anything to him. He was also a powerful figure. Most importantly, there was still no official position for such a powerful mission. Only the Eastern Heavenly Venerate or the Moon City Lord could match his status and strength. Compared to the position of the Moon City Lord, which was far above the epic battlefield, the position of the Eastern Heavenly Venerate was more attractive. It was absolutely impossible to say that the Spacetime Heavenly Master wouldn't participate in the competition. After the Middle Heavenly Master returned, he wouldn't even have a place to stay. It wouldn't be appropriate for him to temporarily assume the leadership of the Central Region unless he was willing to lower his head and seek a position under the Middle Heavenly Master. Otherwise, it was almost certain that he would fight for the Eastern Heavenly Master's position. After all, he was a genius Heavenly Master in recent years. His rise was very short, but he had already become the world-shaking Spacetime Heavenly Master. His reputation was well-deserved. The Middle Heavenly Master glanced at the Silver Moon Heavenly Master and Yi Shiwen. He felt that the two of them were evenly matched. It was hard to say who was most likely to become the Eastern Heavenly Master in the end. Even if the Spacetime Heavenly Master was excluded, it was difficult to choose between the two. The Silver Moon Heavenly Master had a foundation. Now that she had broken through the Heavenly Gate, she could restore her original cultivation as long as she was given a certain amount of time. At that time, she would be another Heavenly Master that would shock the world. Although Yi Shiwen's foundation couldn't be compared to Silver Moon Heavenly Master's, his growth over the years was too shocking. He had grown to this point in such a short time. In the future, when the election for the Eastern Heavenly Master's position began, it wasn't impossible for him to reach that level. It was still unclear who had more hope. Moreover, there was also the Big Tiger Spacetime Heavenly Master. The Middle Heavenly Master hoped that the person he recommended could become the Eastern Heavenly Master and inherit this position. Then, he would have 2 seats among the 5 Heavenly Masters, and his control over the Fortune God dynasty would be further strengthened. However, this matter couldn't be forced. Everything depended on the two of them. I hope that you can succeed, but the most important thing is still the two of you. I won't say much about the rest. Go back and prepare yourselves. I also need to prepare a little to receive the congratulations of the other Heavenly Masters. The Middle Heavenly Master didn't say any more nonsense and directly ordered them to leave. The others understood and turned to leave. Mr. Huang, do you think one of these two can become the Eastern Heavenly Master? The Middle Heavenly Master asked Mr. Huang. After all, Mr. Huang was different from the others. His 7th gold era had been destroyed, so he could only rely on the Middle Heavenly Master. The others like Silver Moon Heavenly Master, Yi Shiwen, War Master, and the others had their own foundations. Although they were all direct descendants, they had their own interests. They couldn't be considered true confidants, unlike Mr. Huang. If one of these two can become the Middle Heavenly Master, I think there might be a chance of becoming a Martial Venerable, Mr. Huang said. Oh, why do you think so? The Middle Heavenly Master asked curiously. In terms of current strength, there is not much difference between the two. It is even possible that there will be no difference until the election of the Eastern Heavenly Master. However, this is meaningless. In front of them, there is still Spacetime Heavenly Master blocking their way. Therefore, it is useless no matter how strong they are. Mr. Huang said, With the recovery speed of Silver Moon Heavenly Master, she most likely won't be able to catch up with the strength of Spacetime Heavenly Master. However, it is hard to say for Marshall Venerable because he has created too many miracles along the way. Maybe he will create another miracle. That's right, he has created too many miracles. Sometimes I also wonder if he is too blessed by the heavens. In such a short period of time, he has already left the majority of Empyreans behind. This kind of person is hard to find in this world, the Middle Heavenly Master said with a slight smile. In his heart, he was also very emotional about Yi Shiwen's rocket-like cultivation speed. I can't calculate anything about these two people. Everything will be left to time. It is naturally good if the Eastern Heavenly Master position falls into the hands of Li Lang. If not, it is also the will of the heavens. I will not force it, the Middle Heavenly Venerate said faintly. Although he was unwilling, he had no other choice. Who asked him to have no other candidates in his pocket? Mr. Huang could compete with him, but he was not a member of the Fortune Divine Dynasty. Just this point alone made him unqualified to compete for the position of East Heavenly Venerate. Yi Shiwen didn't know that the Middle Heavenly Master and Mr. Huang had such a conversation after he left. He only returned to the human race's encampment because he knew that it would be a rare period of peace. The Middle Heavenly Master returned to the Fortune God Dynasty. It was not easy to mobilize the Creation Universe map. Just like how it was difficult to mobilize the heaven-splitting Devil Axe in the Devil Era, it was also difficult for the Fortune God Dynasty to mobilize the Creation Universe map. Generally speaking, the Creation Universe map would only be mobilized when there was an extreme crisis. Otherwise, it would stay in the Fortune God capital to protect the safety of the entire central region. With the Creation Universe map, the central region could not be invaded even if there was a crisis since ancient times. Therefore, the central region rarely suffered from the flames of war and was extremely prosperous. There were countless experts in the central region. Compared to the other regions, the central region was superior. There were countless strong clans and great sects in the central region. As for the foreign creatures besieging the Fortune God capital, it was just an accident. In the end, they were not able to mobilize the Creation Universe map. Otherwise, the foreign creatures would not have had the chance to jump around. After the Middle Heavenly Master returned, it was inevitable that there would be a series of battles. If he made great contributions, he would naturally obtain great benefit. Similarly, there were also many dangers. He had to be careful. He had to take advantage of this opportunity to enhance his strength. Now, he was already at the peak of the fourth realm. In terms of combat effectiveness, he could even fight evenly with the masters of the fifth realm. However, it was impossible for him to advance further in a short period of time and reach the fifth realm. If he had used the Qi of Virtue for cultivation, then it would indeed be enough, but in the end, he didn't do so because it would be too wasteful. If he wanted to improve his combat strength in a short time, he could refine the Martial Emperor Seal into the Revered Martial Seal. In particular, after adding the Qi of Merit, the Revered Martial Seal had endless magical uses. It could greatly improve Yi Shiwen's strength. If Yi Shiwen had originally relied on the Golden Heptachi to temper his body and was able to fight evenly with the masters of the fifth realm, then after practicing the Revered Martial Seal, his strength would take a huge leap, and even the masters of the peak of the fifth realm would not be his match. When he stepped into the fifth realm, his combat strength could even soar to the level of the sixth realm. Leaping and soaring. And these were the benefits obtained from the destruction of the seventh gold era. He had only shared a part of the benefit. It was no wonder that the former heavenly masters could not forget the benefits of destroying the ancient era. The more long-term benefits were the emergence of masters in large numbers in the human clan. The geniuses were like carps crossing the river. All kinds of heavenly treasures grew in the human clan's territory. These would take a long time to see. After making the decision, Yi Shiwen immediately called Bian Xiaoye and the others. he announced that he would enter a closed-door training state for the next period of time. He would not come out until the Middle Heavenly Master returned from the Fortune God dynasty with the Fortune Universe map. He asked them to guard the station and not to go out. They should cultivate more to improve their strength or train the elites of the human clan in case they were needed in the future. After explaining everything, Yi Shiwen finally entered the closed-door training state and began to refine the revered martial seal. Chapter 3500. From the outside, Yi Shiwen's closed-door training place was only the size of a palm. It was located in the core of the human clan's encampment. In this palm-sized place, there were layers of space and layers of enchantment. In the deepest part there was a world. With Yi Shiwen's current cultivation, it was as convenient as eating and drinking to open up a world. However, he was still very cautious. Although he was not in closed-door training for a breakthrough, he could not be disturbed to practice the martial honorable seal. In front of him, the martial honorable seal was floating up and down. The martial honorable seal was surrounded by thousands of auspicious lights. However, it did not form a storm. It was neutral and peaceful. Yi Shiwen spat out a breath of essence from time to time, which turned into infinite real fire. The real fire constantly calcined the martial honorable seal. The martial honorable seal had accompanied Yi Shiwen in the Emperor realm. It did not fall into a disadvantageous position against any Dao tool. However, it began to melt slowly under Yi Shiwen's real fire. This was something that Yi Shiwen could not do when he was in the Emperor realm. However, it was much simpler now that he had entered the Heavenly Master realm. Soon, the martial honorable seal had completely turned into a pool of molten iron. However, Yi Shiwen did not stop. He waved his hand again, and many Heavenly Master Dao tools appeared. These were the Heavenly Master Dao tools left by the Heavenly Masters of various eras that Yi Shiwen had killed. At this time, Yi Shiwen wanted to melt them together and refine them into the martial honorable seal. This was the most fundamental part of the martial honorable seal. However, there were still some remnant spirits in the Celestial Master Celestial tool. After sensing that Yi Shiwen was going to refine them into raw materials, they suddenly began to struggle violently. However, how could their struggle have any effect? In just a moment, they were suppressed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen kept spitting out essence from his mouth, which turned into raging flames. These Heavenly Master Dao tools were calcined into a pool of molten iron. Even the original appearance of the raw materials could be seen. Even the Heavenly Master Dao tools could not resist for long in front of Yi Shiwen because they had lost their master. Without the protection of their master, they could only be refined. With the passage of time, these Dao artifacts were finally restored to their original form. However, of course, they could not be in their original form. All of them turned into liquid and merged with the original martial emperor seal. Yiwen was constantly exhaling essence energy while his hands were constantly forming hand seals for refining tools. With his current strength, refining a Dao tool was very easy. He could complete it as long as he had the materials. However, refining a Celestial Master Dao tool wasn't so simple. It required a lot of materials and a lot of time. Yi Shiwen didn't know how much time had passed. Finally, the revered martial seal in his hand gradually took shape. It was about to take shape after all the impurities had been removed. However, this was only an embryo. It had roughly taken shape. The most important step was to add Yi Shiwen's Dao and his understanding of the Great Way. If this step was missing, then it would only be an ordinary divine tool comparable to a Heavenly Master's Dao tool. Yi Shiwen formed a hand seal. 3,000 martial Daos appeared around him. Each martial Dao was evolving into an extremely profound Great Way. Then, all of them poured into the revered martial seal that was about to take shape. In an instant, the revered martial seal blossomed with thousands of rays of light. It was as if this part of the world was illuminated like glass. This was the sign of the Heavenly Master Dao tool taking shape. However, this wasn't enough. Yi Shiwen was still refining unceasingly. He had integrated the 3,000 martial principles into the revered martial seal. That was the level and plan he had when he had refined the martial emperor seal. However, he had greater ambitions now. As he continued to urge his magic power, a miniature version of the Fortune Realm appeared around him. The terrain of the Fortune Realm was imprinted in it. Together with his 3,000 martial Tao epochs, a strong chemical reaction was immediately produced. It was about to form a miniature martial Tao epoch on the spot. Using the revered martial seal to refine a miniature martial Tao epoch. This was a shocking plan. Although it was only a preliminary refinement and had not been completed, it was already extremely shocking. This was because this was not tolerated by the world. This was equivalent to using the power of the martial Tao epoch to upgrade it bit by bit. It would become more and more powerful, far surpassing ordinary Heavenly Master Tao tools. Many people knew this principle, but no one could do it. The only successful example was the creation of the universe map. In fact, Yi Shiwen had such an idea because he knew about the creation of the universe map. The creation of the universe map projected the entire Fortune Divine Dynasty into this part of the world. Therefore, when the creation of the universe map rolled up, the power of heaven and earth would cover the sky and earth. Ordinary people could not resist it at all. Even a heavenly master would die if they were swept by the power of heaven and earth. Its power was no weaker than the heaven-splitting demonic axe. The brand-new martial Tao mark that Yi Shiwen wanted to refine could not be compared to the creation of the universe map, even if it formed a rough epoch. However, its power was already invincible among the heavenly master Tao tools. However, this kind of heaven-defying action would inevitably be punished by the heavens. It would not dissolve in the world. Almost immediately, Yi Shiwen felt that a crack had appeared on the martial Tao mark that was about to take shape. Moreover, this crack was getting bigger and bigger. Soon, it densely covered the entire martial supremacy seal. An ordinary heavenly venerate would have been flustered and could only watch helplessly as the martial supremacy seal completely cracked. However, Yi Shiwen was different. In fact, all of this was already within his expectations. He already had this idea and deduced it with the mysterious space in his body. Everything was within his expectations. At this moment, he opened his mouth again, and a cloud of qi of merit flew out and integrated into the martial Tao mark. The dense cracks that had originally appeared began to disappear little by little. Using the qi of merit to offset the heaven-defying power and counteract the heavenly punishment was the fundamental trump card that Yi Shiwen dared to refine the martial Tao mark to this extent. Using the qi of merit to resist this kind of heavenly punishment was equivalent to counteracting the merits and demerit. He would not be attacked by the heavenly way. Finally, when the last crack disappeared, the terrifying power of heavenly punishment emitted by the martial saint's seal also disappeared. Yi Shiwen could not help but heave a sigh of relief. This martial Tao mark had passed the last and most important hurdle and was finally taking shape. Once this martial Tao mark was formed, Yi Shiwen's combat power would soar to the peak of the fifth realm. He would even be more powerful than an ordinary peak of the fifth realm. However, Yi Shiwen still did not dare to take it lightly at the last moment. He constantly spat out qi of essence into real fire. It burned and calcined continuously as the martial Tao mark finally took shape bit by bit. During this process, Yi Shiwen's understanding of the path of tool refining had also improved tremendously. Refining a celestial master Tao tool wasn't something an ordinary person could do. During this process, Yi Shiwen's understanding of the path of tool refining wasn't limited to just a little bit. Moreover, it was refining such an obviously heaven-defying martial Tao mark. The martial Tao mark had attracted the interference of the heavenly way before it was formed. It wanted to completely shatter it. It was obvious how terrifying it was. Behind Yi Shiwen, there was an incomparably huge character for tool refining. At first, it was very blurry, but it became clearer and clearer. At first, it was very small, only the size of a finger, and finally, it became the size of a person, exuding the endless brilliance of the great Tao law. This was condensed in Yi Shiwen's body after his understanding of the way of tool refining reached a shocking level. This marked that Yi Shiwen's way of tool refining had truly reached a very high level and realm. Compared to when he had just started refining the martial Tao mark, his level had improved by several times. Although he had consumed many heavenly master Tao tools in order to refine the martial Tao mark, these were all good things that were hard to buy with money. If he sold any one of them, it would be priceless. Moreover, he had smelted so many of them in one go. Even someone like Yi Shiwen, who was used to being rich, couldn't help but feel distressed. Fortunately, the final harvest was also not small. The martial Tao mark was about to take shape. After integrating the Qi of merit, the martial Tao mark would be earth-shattering as soon as it took shape. It would become a top heavenly master Tao tool, invincible, and greatly improve his strength. Moreover, his understanding of the way of tool refining had also reached an amazing level. As long as he had enough materials, he could easily refine ordinary heavenly master Tao tools. Every bit of this kind of understanding was integrated into his soul little by little. It had greatly benefited his 3,000 martial arts. Although the way of tool refining was not in the 3,000 martial arts, it was closely related to the 3,000 martial arts. Many martial arts were implemented with the help of tools, and the way of tool refining was indispensable. It could be said that they complemented each other and improved each other. Otherwise, Yi Shiwen's way of tool refining wouldn't be so big so quickly. It's done. After a long time, Yi Shiwen finally spoke. His eyes couldn't hide the joy. In front of him, the martial Tao mark had finally taken shape and bloomed with thousands of rays of light. The Qi of merit flowed on the surface of the martial Tao mark, and the radiance it emitted turned this side of the world into a glass world. It was colorful and dazzling. At this moment, the space that was originally sealed by Yi Shiwen with countless barriers and arrays seemed to have been torn open. Countless rays of light and auspicious colors fell. It was auspicious to celebrate the birth of the martial Tao mark. For a time, the laws of heaven and earth manifested one after another. There was a cheerful mood. This was the joy of the heavens. Yi Shiwen smiled. He forced out a drop of his blood essence and sent it into the martial Tao mark together with the tool spirit formed by the martial Tao mark. Suddenly, there was a feeling of blood connection. The martial Tao mark was finally formed. Chapter 3501. Ha 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 ha, it's finally done. Yi Shiwen laughed heartily. He had finally refined his celestial master Tao tool. He had already stepped into the peak of the fourth realm. Since ancient times, it had been extremely rare for someone to not have their own heavenly venerate Tao artifact. This was because most people who had just entered the heavenly venerate realm would work hard to find materials to refine their own heavenly venerate Tao artifact. Moreover, celestial masters would spend hundreds of thousands of years or even millions of years to advance one realm. At most, they would advance 2 realms. Therefore, even after refining their own celestial master Tao tool, they were still in the first realm. It was rare to see someone like Yi Shiwen. Too many things happened during this time, so Yi Shiwen did not have much time to consider refining his own celestial master Tao tool. In addition, his cultivation growth was too fast compared to other celestial masters, so he had not refined his own celestial master Tao tool even when he had cultivated to the peak of the fourth realm. But now, he finally made up for his last shortcoming. His strength had also improved tremendously. Even if he faced a 6th realm master, it was impossible to kill him quickly. He could retreat unscathed. This was his biggest trump card. Perhaps no one was aware of this, because they all thought that Yi Shiwen's cultivation was at the 4th realm, so how powerful could he be? And just when Yi Shiwen was planning to continue to practice, to see if he could break through to the fifth realm. Suddenly, he only heard a huge explosion sound. Even if he was in the layers of space, this huge explosion sound could not be blocked at all. In practically an instant, the many spirit formations that he had set up all began to issue frantic alarms. It was not because someone had broken in. Rather, it was because he had sensed a frightening energy and the fluctuations of natural laws that had alarmed him. Yi Shiwen immediately opened his heavenly eye and immediately saw the situation of the entire Sun City. At this time, the Sun City was in chaos. Explosions could be seen everywhere, shooting straight into the sky. Fierce battles were constantly breaking out. Is there an invasion from an ancient era? Yi Shiwen's first reaction was that an ancient era had invaded. The battle was so intense that it could even penetrate into the Sun City. It must be a major event. Otherwise, with Sun City's defenses, it was impossible for it to be silently sacrificed. Even if the heaven-splitting demon axe was used, it would still be the same. Moon City was only sacrificed because of the carelessness of Moon City's city lord. It was a complete accident. No matter what, it was extremely dangerous. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen hurriedly went out of the world where he was doing closed-door training. He saw that Bian Xiaoye and the others had already gathered at the exit, waiting for him. There was an anxious look on their faces. It seemed that they wanted to ask Yi Shiwen what to do. Yi Shiwen immediately said, "You guard the station. Don't go out without my order. I'll go take a look." Here. Bian Xiaoye and the others couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief when they saw Yi Shiwen coming out of closed-door training. At this time, Yi Shiwen was the stabilizing force in their hearts. They naturally felt relieved when they saw Yi Shiwen. After stabilizing the human race army, Yi Shiwen immediately flew toward the void without hesitation. At this time, he looked around. The entire city was in chaos. Battles could be seen everywhere. However, the entire Sun City's defense showed no signs of being sacrificed. All the attacks came from inside the city. Someone is causing trouble? Yi Shiwen immediately realized that someone must be causing trouble. But what does he want to do? There was no invasion from the ancient era outside. What's the use of stirring up chaos in the city at this time? It would not take long for the chaos to be suppressed. The number of troops stationed in the Sun City was huge. Yi Shiwen saw that the barracks stationed in the Sun City had been opened. In a short time, hundreds of elite troops came out of the barracks and rushed towards the rebellious places in the city. It wouldn't take long for the rebellions to be suppressed. Yi Shiwen didn't expect that Yi Shiwen would be able to suppress the rebellions in the city. Just when Yi Shiwen was thinking that this was just a farce, he only heard a loud roar coming from the city. "Red Serpent Demon, do you really think that there is no one in the Sun City? How dare you come here? This is the Sun City Lord." Yi Shiwen immediately recognized this voice. Who else could it be other than the Sun City Lord? He saw two figures coming out one after the other. One of them had a demonic aura soaring into the sky. It seemed like the entire world was dyed into a demonic world, making people unable to see the scene clearly. Behind him, there was a person with flames on his body. Countless fire laws formed a terrible storm around him. It almost instantly chased after the demonic aura. Red Serpent Demon. A ray of light flashed in Yi Shiwen's eyes. Is the Sun City's defense so lax? Even a demon venerable of this level sneaked in without being detected? In that case, these riots were all caused by the Crimson Serpent Demon Venerable. He even snuck in personally and risked being suppressed by the various barriers and formations of Sun City. Why did he do that? How could Xiao Qin not know of this Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate? This Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate was a famous existence in many epochs. His position in the demonic epoch was no less than that of the 10 divine city lords in the martial epoch. He was extremely strong. He could be said to be the leader of the demon era. How could such a person put himself in danger? Unless there was something in the Sun City that attracted him and he had to get it? If he was not careful, even the red serpent demon might be suppressed. As expected, all kinds of barriers and formations in Sun City were activated almost instantaneously. Terrifying attacks were unleashed one after another. Some of the attacks could even heavily injure the demon reverend. As time passed, more and more formations and barriers were activated. The barrier enveloped the entire Sun City, and a terrifying power burst out from the formation. Huge war fortresses even appeared and aimed at the red serpent demon. This was a method that could pose a great threat to the red serpent demon. Sure enough, at the same time, the red serpent demon felt that he was targeted by the war fortresses. He felt goosebumps all over his body. He was not afraid of ordinary attacks. Even if he was besieged by several celestial venerables, he would not be afraid. However, these war fortresses were different. They were refined by the fortune creation heavenly monarch. There were such war fortresses in every divine city. They could severely injure celestial venerables. They were a great threat to peak celestial venerables like him. The divine cities had not fallen for many years. Naturally, these war fortresses were one of their trump cards. Boom! With a deafening roar, one of the war fortresses burst out a terrifying attack. Countless nomological laws formed a storm of nomological laws. In an instant, it pierced through the space, pierced through the chaos, and blasted towards the red serpent demon. The red serpent demon turned around and punched out a sky full of demonic aura to resist the terrifying storm. Boom! Another terrifying storm formed from the collision, spread out in all directions. Even someone as powerful as Scarlet Serpent Demon Sovereign was forced back by this storm. He was sent flying for over 100 kilometers before he was barely able to neutralize the terrifying impact of this attack. His arms were still trembling. After withstanding such a terrifying power, even his integrated demonic body could not withstand it. The threat of these fortresses was too great. At this moment, the Sun City Lord had already caught up. In just a moment, 2 suns appeared in his hands and blasted towards the red serpent demon. Seeing that he was caught and that it would be difficult for him to break free from Sun City's City Lord, the red serpent demon Venerable went crazy and charged forward to fight Sun City's City Lord to buy time. This way, the war fortresses did not dare to casually launch attacks to avoid injuring the Sun City Lord. It was a very smart move. Yi Shiwen did not go to help. He just kept looking around. With the Sun City Lord tangling with him, the red serpent demon could not escape. Although he was the only peak heavenly venerate in the city right now, that was enough. The others had returned. Eastern Heavenly Master and the others had also returned to the Fortune God Dynasty to mobilize the Creation Universe map. Naturally, they were not here at this time. However, he still wanted to know what the Red Serpent Demon's purpose was. Soon, he noticed a figure appearing in the most central area of the city. If it was an ordinary person, then it would be fine. However, Yi Shiwen could not help but notice that person. Tong Zun. It's him? What is he trying to do? Yi Shiwen couldn't help but be puzzled. Then, in a split second, he suddenly remembered. Wasn't that the place where the Middle Heavenly Master had sealed the Moon City Lord? His purpose, no, it should be said that their purpose is the Moon City Lord. Yi Shiwen suddenly connected all the things together, and immediately understood what was going on. Tong Zun had colluded with the people of the Devil Era to rescue the Moon City Lord. This was the only possibility that could make Scarlet Lotus Demon Venerable, who was high up in the demonic epoch, take the risk to come here and purposely make such a big commotion to attract the attention of Sun City's City Lord. In this way, Tong Zun and the others would have the opportunity to rescue the Moon City Lord. The City Lord of Crescent City held a high position in the Fortune God Dynasty. It was unknown how many secrets he knew about the Fortune God Dynasty. It was also unknown how many relatives and friends he had. These people had complicated relationships in the Fortune God Dynasty. He should have gotten rid of them as soon as possible. It was just that the matter of attacking the striking Moon City was so close at hand that it could not be delayed. Therefore, there was no time to get rid of them or control them. Now, it finally led to a bad result. But no matter what, they must not be allowed to succeed. Chapter 3502. Yi Shiwen naturally knew how terrifying the consequences would be if the Moon City Lord was released. But this time, the demon era came prepared. At this time, there were still many people who noticed Copper Lord's actions. They were Sun City's native heavenly venerables. But when they tried to stop Copper Lord, demon era heavenly venerables appeared around them and stopped them. Although this Moon City was the territory of the martial epoch, just the formations and barriers could suppress these demonic epoch heavenly venerates, making it hard for them to breathe. They were no match for the native heavenly venerates. But if it was just to stall for time, it would be easy. Yi Shiwen immediately flew out and chased after Copper Zune. Copper Lord, how dare you collude with the demon era and betray the fortune god dynasty? You're courting death. Just as Tong Zun arrived at the place where the Moon City Lord was sealed, he heard a loud shout behind him. It's you. Copper Lord immediately recognized who it was. He gritted his teeth in hatred. Who else could this person be but Yi Shiwen? Previously, as a dignified master of the peak of the Fifth Realm, he was unexpectedly abused by Yi Shiwen in front of a large number of people. At that meeting, even his benefactor, the City Lord of Moon City, was tricked by Yi Shiwen, and was eventually sealed. The hatred between the two was as deep as the sea. Now that they met again, it was really the case of enemies meeting again. I don't have time for you now. An axe had appeared in Tong Zun's hand out of nowhere, and he swung it at the seal viciously. Boom! With a loud bang, a huge crack appeared on the seal due to the axe. What is that axe? Yi Shiwen saw this axe at a glance. One must know that Copper Lord's martial power was very strong, and he wasn't a weakling among the heavenly masters. However, he couldn't be compared with a middle heavenly master whose martial power had obviously increased. Given Copper Lord's strength, who knew how long it would take him to create a huge crack on the middle heavenly venerable's seal, it was impossible to do so in a short period of time. This was also why, even though this was the place where the City Lord of Moon City was sealed, the security wasn't very tight. This was because the seal left behind by a middle heavenly venerate couldn't be broken in a short period of time. Even someone like the Red Serpent Demon Venerate wouldn't be able to break it in such a short period of time. Moreover, under normal circumstances, a demon lord like Qi Lian Demon Lord wouldn't be able to sneak into Sun City. However, this time, Copper Lord, who used to be the City Lord of Moon City, acted as a guide, which was why everything went so smoothly. No, that's not a Heavenly Lord Dao artifact. Yi Shiwen glanced at it, and immediately discovered that it wasn't a Taoist tool. In fact, it didn't even have the characteristic radiance of a Taoist tool. That's right. The materialization of a wisp of divine sense. He took a closer look and immediately saw that it was formed from the will of a certain magic tool. However, what shocked him was that it was only formed from the will of a magic tool, yet it had such amazing power. With one swing of the axe, it could create a huge crack in the seal left behind by a middle celestial master. Could it be the heaven-splitting devil axe? Yi Shiwen immediately thought of it. Yes, only the heaven-splitting devil axe could have such power. It was above the Heavenly Lord Dao artifact, a Dominator Dao artifact. Only a Dominator Dao artifact like the heaven-splitting devil axe could erupt with such power with just a wisp of divine sense. Of course, this wisp of divine sense couldn't be retained for a long time, and it couldn't be used many times. However, it was enough to split the seal. After this crack appeared, a terrifying aura erupted from it. It was the City Lord of Moon City struggling inside, madly resisting the seal. Unlike Copper Lord, the strength of the City Lord of Moon City was obviously much more terrifying. As he resisted, even the entire seal began to shake violently. Countless streams of light began to flow, and countless law lines appeared above the seal. This was the seal's automatic counterattack. Swoosh! With a swoosh, countless spiritual energy gathered towards the seal, and then formed a figure above the seal. It was the middle celestial master. It was a wisp of divine sense left behind by the middle celestial master. Copper Lord, how dare you betray the Fortune God dynasty? Aren't you afraid of being hunted down to the ends of the earth? The middle celestial master opened his eyes and shouted, "Ha ha ha, betraying the Fortune God dynasty? What's there to be afraid of? When I was being hunted down, the Fortune God dynasty didn't come to my rescue. If your true self were here today, I wouldn't say a word and would leave on the spot. But now you want to stop me? Impossible." Copper Lord laughed heartily. His expression was slightly crazed and ferocious. He had probably never imagined that he would betray the Fortune God dynasty for his benefactor. However, at this point, there was no way out for him. If he didn't fight, only death would await him. The heaven-splitting devil axe in his hand, which was formed by the will of the heaven-splitting devil axe, slashed down at the middle celestial master's divine sense. In that instant, countless demonic Tao laws appeared, forming countless demonic figures that possessed the might to split the heavens and earth apart. It was as if an unparalleled demonic sovereign was splitting the heavens and earth apart, fiercely hacking down, splitting apart the world. The middle celestial masters will erupted with extreme speed. The speed laws emerged one after another, protecting him. This was a collision of laws. However, the moment the devil axe slashed down and touched the speed laws collapsed one after another. There was no way for him to resist. If the middle celestial master's true self was here, he could easily break this devil axe. After all, it was only a wisp of the heaven-splitting devil axe's will, not the real heaven-splitting devil axe. However, the middle celestial master was only a wisp of will. How could he resist? In an instant, the protective laws collapsed one after another. Then, the devil axe slashed down on the middle celestial master's body. The devil axe itself had dimmed a lot because of this attack. It was only formed by a wisp of will. Every attack consumed the little will and energy left in its body. This was especially true for this attack. However, the middle celestial master's will collapsed on the spot when it was cut down. It turned into energy that scattered in all directions. Boom! There was a huge rumble, and the entire seal shook violently. Another crack appeared on the seal. The two cracks seemed to be carved into it, causing the light of the entire seal to dim. More and more of the terrifying aura of the City Lord of Moon City seeped out from the cracks. If I let him continue like this, I'm afraid he will really split it open. Yi Shiwen thought to himself, this is bad. Although this devil axe only has a portion of the heaven-splitting devil axe's power, and it can't be used continuously, it is enough to split open the seal. If the Moon City Lord escaped, the consequences would be unimaginable. At this moment, he had already reached the edge of the seal. The speed of a celestial master was extremely fast. Although all this took a long time to describe, it only took a moment. The entire seal trembled violently. Its light dimmed and the laws scattered. If this continued, it would not be able to withstand the next few axe strikes. Copper Supremacy only took a deep breath and swung the axe, ignoring Yi Shiwen. At this moment, a demonic figure appeared in front of Yi Shiwen, blocking his path. The celestial master of the martial epoch ends here. If you want to pass, you must pass through me first. This demonic figure let out a dry voice. It was extremely unpleasant to the ears, like a sonic boom. This was a demon monarch of the demon epoch. He had been lying in ambush for a long time, obviously to protect Copper's supremacy. To avoid being disturbed. This was very crucial. If the Moon City Lord could not be rescued, then all their previous efforts would be in vain. Those who block me shall die. Boundless golden light erupted from Yi Shiwen's body. His aura was like a mountain, rushing straight into the sky. At this moment, how could he be gentle? Only those who block him would die. This was the only path. When the demon monarch saw Yi Shiwen's surging magic power and soaring aura, he immediately understood that he could not delay things with words. This demon monarch also let out a long roar. Demonic aura rushed into the sky. He was also a demon monarch of the fifth realm. His strength was extremely rare. It was unknown when a long whip appeared in his hand. The long whip danced, and the sound of it tearing through the sky formed a terrifying sonic boom. It was like a long dragon, bringing with it endless demonic laws as it ruthlessly struck towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen snorted coldly. His expression didn't change in the slightest in the face of this attack. He spread out his big hand, and it seemed as if he wanted to grab the whole world into his hand. He casually grabbed this devil whip, and it immediately fell into his hand. This devil whip seemed as if it was alive. It had a spiritual nature, and it turned into a devil dragon. It was constantly struggling and was about to fly up. This was also a celestial master Dao artifact. Naturally, it had its own spirituality and was very difficult to deal with. However, in front of Yi Shiwen, there was no room for it to struggle at all. What? This demon monarch did not expect that this demonic whip that he had thrown out would not even have the strength to fight back against Yi Shiwen. It was so easily caught by Yi Shiwen. At this moment, in Yi Shiwen's hand, the gung metal ancestral chi had already appeared. It instantly formed a sword. Countless sword Dao laws attached to it, forming a terrifying storm. Whoosh! The sword light flashed, and Yi Shiwen made his move. Fast, 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 fast to the limit. Yi Shiwen's sword brought with it a terrifying beam of light. In an instant, it directly stabbed in front of the demon monarch. This demon monarch could not react at all. He was pierced by Yi Shiwen's sword. The gung metal ancestral chi was extremely ferocious, and it was about to blow up his entire body. Immediately after, two large hands reached out. This demon monarch did not even have time to react before he was torn in half. Chapter 3503. A violent tearing sound was heard. A demon lord of the fifth realm was torn in half by Yi Shiwen on the spot. He couldn't fight back at all. The eyes on the head of the demon lord that was torn in half were wide open. He was extremely shocked and couldn't believe it at all. They had done their best to sneak in at this time. They also had some understanding of the celestial masters who were still staying in Sun City. Of course, this was all information obtained through the Copper Lord. He also recognized the person in front of him. Although he had never fought with him, he was considered to be famous in the demon era for a long time. The news of Yi Shiwen killing several demon lords in a row had finally spread out. He caused the demon era to lose several demon lords in one go. Such a huge loss was enough for the demon lords to remember him. However, according to the information he received, Yi Shiwen's cultivation was only in the fourth realm. He was already in the fifth realm. He would be suppressed in this city, and it was difficult for him to use his full strength. Otherwise, he would be targeted and attacked by the array in Sun City. However, with his higher cultivation, it shouldn't be difficult to suppress Yi Shiwen. Even if he couldn't suppress Yi Shiwen, it shouldn't be difficult to buy time. However, the facts proved that he was too naive. The person who provided him the information should die. The information provided was fundamentally wrong. Yi Shiwen was just an ordinary fourth realm celestial master who had achieved Dao less than 10,000 years ago. Now, he even had the intention to kill Tong Zun because this information was provided by Tong Zun. Tong Zun consciously concealed the fact that he was beaten up by Yi Shiwen previously. In fact, in his opinion, the reason why he was beaten up previously was also an accident. If he wasn't careless, he wouldn't have been beaten up by Yi Shiwen at that time. What the Copper Lord had thought at that time wasn't wrong. However, he didn't know that Yi Shiwen had successfully cultivated the Martial Lord's seal in just a few years. His strength had leaped from the fifth realm to the peak of the fifth realm. His improvement wasn't just a little bit. It was because of this misjudgment that caused such a serious consequence. He still wanted to struggle and break free from Yi Shiwen's grasp. However, how could Yi Shiwen let him escape? Yi Shiwen waved his big hand, and a seal character directly slapped down. It faintly resembled the spirit of the heaven-sealing talisman. This was also what Yi Shiwen had comprehended after seeing the heaven-sealing talisman. His understanding of the principles of sealing had also greatly improved. In terms of the way of sealing, his speed had become even faster. Almost in an instant, he had sealed the Demon Lord, who was a level higher than his actual cultivation. Then, he threw it into his inner world. When he had the time, he would refine it and water it on the world tree to produce the world fruit. In order for the world tree fruit to ripen, apart from time, there was a huge requirement for the amount of blood essence watered. The more blood essence watered, the faster the world tree fruit would ripen. Although all of this took a long time to describe, it actually happened in just a few moments. In fact, the Demon Lord couldn't even stall for time. Boom! An incomparably loud roar was heard. The Copper Lord held the demonic axe and chopped the seal again. The seal, and even the entire Sun City within the scope of the seal, trembled. For many of the aborigines living in Sun City, it felt as if the entire world was collapsing. There were already several more cracks on the seal. Just when Yi Shiwen was dealing with the Demon Lord who blocked his way, he chopped a few more cracks on the seal. At this time, the cracks were densely intertwined, forming a hole in the center. Countless auspicious lights erupted from the hole, and a terrifying momentum swept out. The entire seal was already very dim. The Moon City Lord could break out at any time. Even without the Copper Lord's demonic axe chopping, it was only a matter of time. "You're courting death!" Yi Shiwen roared and slapped the demonic whip in his hand. He hadn't subdued this demonic whip yet, so he couldn't unleash the true power of this demonic whip. But even so, the material of this demonic whip alone could unleash a terrifying power. Yi Shiwen's power was so great that even if he just casually swung it, the power was enough to split the sky into two halves. It was like a poisonous dragon that was about to devour the Copper Lord. At this moment, there was no one who could help him anymore. Even Bronze Lord couldn't ignore the attack that came from behind. He immediately turned around and chopped at Yi Shiwen's demonic whip with the demonic axe in his hand. Bang! A huge buzzing sound swept out a terrifying energy tide. The demonic whip was blown back by the powerful energy tide, and returned to Yi Shiwen's hand. On the other hand, Tong Zun's demonic axe was completely shattered by the collision. Originally, it had already consumed most of its energy in the previous attack. At this time, it could only block one attack from this demonic whip before it was completely shattered. How is this possible? The Copper Lord felt a terrifying vibration coming from his hands. It was the rebound force from Yi Shiwen's demonic whip. He had always been known for his fleshly body, but now he wasn't even facing his Empyrean Tao artifact head-on. Instead, he was just using the will of the heaven-splitting demonic axe to collide with the supreme Tao artifact that he had temporarily seized. Such a collision actually made his hands tremble. How is this possible? He still couldn't believe it. He felt that Yi Shiwen seemed to be even more terrifying and powerful than when he first met him a few years ago. How can he improve so quickly? How can he be so powerful? The Copper Lord still had a lot of doubts in his heart. But at this time, he didn't have the time to care about it because Yi Shiwen had already pounced on him. Should he continue to wait here for the Moon City Lord to come out, or should he escape first? This question suddenly popped up. He originally thought that his arrangements were flawless and that it would be easy for a Fifth Realm Devil Lord to stop Yi Shiwen. Moreover, he himself was at the peak of the Fifth Realm and was only a step away from stepping into the Sixth Realm. A mere Yi Shiwen was nothing to him. But now, he realized that he was ridiculously wrong. Go! Almost instantly, he made a decision because he knew very well that in this city, he wouldn't be able to exert his strength at all if he was suppressed by the boundaries and formations of the city. Wasn't that the demon lord from before killed by Yi Shiwen in a short while because of this? At this time, he had already defected. The formations and boundaries of the city would also deal with him. This was the most disadvantageous place for him. At this time, he could only retreat first. He glanced at the seal. At this time, the seal was getting dimmer and dimmer. Even the cracks on the seal were increasing. It couldn't even stop Yi Shiwen. The Moon City Lord was unleashing his full strength inside. This half-destroyed boundary couldn't stop him at all. Unless a middle heavenly master-level figure rushed over to seal it, there was no way to stop him. Wu Zun, so what if you rush over now? You can't stop the seal from being broken. Ah! The Copper Lord laughed heartily. His expression was incomparably carefree. Yi Shiwen glanced at the seal and immediately understood that it was inevitable that the seal would be broken. With his martial power, he wouldn't be able to suppress the Moon City Lord who was about to come out. As soon as the Copper Lord finished speaking, he directly flew out of the city. At this time, his mission was almost completed. Under normal circumstances, he would naturally stay and wait for the Moon City Lord to come out. But now, with Yi Shiwen eyeing him covetously, things wouldn't be so simple. He had already seen Yi Shiwen's amazing strength. If he was entangled at this time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Moreover, although Yi Shiwen couldn't suppress the Moon City Lord who was about to come out, it wouldn't be a problem for him to buy time. Now, what they lacked the most was time. Why did the Red Serpent Demon Lord take the risk to travel around the Sun City? Wasn't it to buy time to delay the Sun City Lord? Yi Shiwen immediately understood that the Copper Lord wanted to lure him away. However, at this time, he also calculated a lot of things. Even if he stayed, he wouldn't be able to stop the Moon City Lord from escaping. Because the Sun City Lord was blocked by the Red Serpent Demon Lord, he wouldn't be able to rush over in a short time. Even if he delayed time, it wouldn't be of much use. In that case, I'll cut off one of your arms. A ruthless look flashed in Yi Shiwen's eyes. He looked directly at the Copper Lord and said, "If he wants to leave, I can't stop him. But Copper Lord, don't even think about leaving. These people are attracted by you. If you don't die today, how can you face the dead creatures in the city? Want to kill me? Let's see if you have the ability to do so." The Copper Lord didn't care about Yi Shiwen at all. He would be suppressed in the city, but the situation was completely different once he left the city. The Copper Lord directly stepped on a bronze aura and flew out of the city. But before he left, he sent a message to the Sun City Lord, who was in a fierce battle, explaining the situation here, especially the situation where the Moon City Lord was about to come out. Yi Shiwen immediately chased after him, but before he left, he sent a message to the Sun City Lord who was in the midst of a fierce battle. The Sun City Lord who was in a fierce battle received the message from Yi Shiwen and finally realized that he had been tricked. "Oh no, I've been tricked. Damn it, luring the tiger away from the mountain." The Sun City Lord was furious. He actually fell into the trap of the Devil Era. He had fallen into the trap of luring the tiger away from the mountain and could only watch helplessly as the seal of the City Lord of Crescent City was broken. If he was still around, how could Bronze Lord have succeeded under his watch? Damn traitor! The Sun City Lord wanted to leave, but he was stopped by the Red Serpent Demon Lord. Want to leave? Have you asked for my permission? Chapter 3504. Sun City's City Lord wanted to rush back to seal Moon City's City Lord. However, the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate saw through his plan. The Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate appeared here to delay Sun City's City Lord. If Sun City's City Lord returned, all his efforts would have been for nothing. In order to rescue Moon City's City Lord, Not only did he have to prepare everything, but he also had to spend a lot of resources and connections. He even had to expose some of the spies he had planted in Sun City over the years. Otherwise, he would not be able to cause chaos in the city so easily. One should know that Sun City was very, very big, much bigger than an ordinary world. How could it be that easy to cause chaos at the same time? Who knew how many spies had been involved in this matter? After this was over, Sun City would definitely be cleansed from top to bottom. Those who gave themselves away would not be able to escape death. There were even imperial lords who had fought their way in countless years ago. Now, in order to save Moon City's City Lord, they had all been exposed. Given Sun City's City Lord's cultivation, it would have been fine if he had not shown any signs before. Now that he had, it would only take a moment to figure it out. After paying such a huge price, if they still couldn't successfully help the Moon City's City Lord escape, they would really suffer a double loss. Hence, even if he was targeted by the various war fortresses and barriers, he could only hold on. He could not cower at this moment. Once Shao Chun successfully released Moon City's City Lord, the demonic epoch would gain an incredibly strong helper. Even in the martial epoch, which was in its prime, experts of such level would be extremely rare, pitifully few. Naturally, this was the best situation for the demonic epoch. At this moment, Sun City's City Lord used Sun City's barrier to gain the upper hand. However, his cultivation was not that different from the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate, so he could not break free and return. Sun City's City Lord could only watch as more cracks appeared in the seal. It was only a matter of time before Moon City's City Lord escaped. Sun City's City Lord felt very anxious. However, at this point, being anxious was useless. Aside from him, no one in the city could suppress Moon City's City Lord. This was because the City Lord of Heaven City had already returned to Heaven City. Heaven City's defenses were also of the utmost importance. Moon City had already been lost, so Heaven City could not be lost. The Middle Heavenly Venerables, Southern Heavenly Venerables, Northern Heavenly Venerables, Western Heavenly Venerables, and Spacetime Heavenly Venerables also returned to the Fortune God Dynasty to activate the Fortune Universe Scroll. No one could help at all. Most importantly, the defense system was leaked by Copper Lord, allowing Crimson Serpent Demon Lord and the others to sneak in. Otherwise, if Crimson Serpent Demon Lord attacked from the outside, he wouldn't be able to break in alone even if he was given 10 years. Yi Shiwen's decision to give up on defending the seal and chase after Copper's supremacy was the right choice. Yi Shiwen's all-out attack could indeed prolong the time for the Moon City Lord to break the seal. However, the time was too short. It wasn't enough for him to suppress Red Serpent Demon Lord. In this round, he had been at a complete disadvantage from the very beginning. He had been schemed against and had been passive in every aspect, which ultimately led to this outcome. He was the dignified Sun City's City Lord, one of the top figures in the entire Fortune God Dynasty. How could he not be angry when someone schemed against him? Good, Crimson Serpent Demon Lord. Since you want to stop me, then I won't stop Moon City's City Lord. However, you must pay the price. Today, you must leave an arm behind. Otherwise, don't even think of escaping. Sun City's City Lord immediately made a decision. Since he couldn't keep Moon City's City Lord here, he could only injure Crimson Serpent Demon Lord. Apart from venting his anger, the most important thing was to prevent the two from joining forces. If two experts joined forces and wreaked havoc in Sun City, they could still cause serious damage to Sun City. However, with Sun City's resources, it wouldn't be easy to deal with the two of them. He was only one person. It was too strenuous for him to deal with the two of them alone. The only way was to injure Crimson Serpent Demon Lord before the Moon City Lord came out. This way, this trouble wouldn't turn into a real turmoil in Sun City. As Sun City's City Lord, he must strangle this threat while it was still a seedling. Crimson Serpent Demon Lord suddenly felt a chill. He immediately understood that Moon City's city lord was going to risk his life. He immediately knew that this operation had reached its final moment. If he persevered, then he would succeed. If he failed, then the consequences would be unimaginable. At this time, Yi Shiwen had already chased Bronze Lord out of Sun City. Now, he couldn't care about the turmoil in Sun City. Naturally, the heavenly masters in Sun City would handle it. With Sun City's strength, it was not a problem to deal with this kind of turmoil. The only problem was that after the Moon City Lord came out, it might lead to a disaster. So, I must get rid of Bronze Lord before the Moon City Lord comes out? Yi Shiwen's eyes flickered. He stepped on a ray of light and finally intercepted Bronze Lord outside the city. In other words, Bronze Lord didn't want to run anymore. He turned around and stared coldly at Yi Shiwen. A terrifying light burst out of his eyes. Wu Zun, I think we can settle our previous scores. Previously, you only caught me off guard. Today, I won't give you such a chance. Bronze Chi burst out from Bronze Lord's body. The primordial chaos seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. It wasn't a cosmos, it wasn't a universe, it was nothing. It was purely collapsing. Even the origin of the primordial chaos was collapsing. After this origin collapsed, it turned into a bronze world. The terrifying aura of the law leaked out and destroyed the world. This was Bronze Lord's true strength. When he fought with Yi Shiwen previously, Yi Shiwen seized the opportunity to beat him up with the universe creation palm. This matter was taboo in his heart. It was also the greatest shame in his heart. Now it was finally time for revenge. In his opinion, without the suppression of the city, Yi Shiwen could only be beaten up by him in a situation where he had erupted with his full strength. Bronze Lord, are you still deceiving yourself? Do you think you're my opponent? If you were my opponent, you wouldn't have had to escape just now, right? Yi Shiwen sneered and said. Shut up. Bronze Lord's expression was indifferent, as if his thoughts were exposed. He directly attacked Yi Shiwen mercilessly. The aura of his body and the bronze energy burst out all of a sudden. It was 10 times more terrifying. Roar! He let out a long roar and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. In his bronze kingdom, a huge dragon flew out. It was huge and mighty. Its huge body coiled in the chaos and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. However, this was only the beginning. There weren't only bronze true dragons in the Bronze Kingdom. There were also all kinds of ominous beasts and mythological beasts. Moreover, there were also many swords, spears, swords, and halberds that had evolved from martial arts. Tens of thousands of different kinds of weapons had manifested, and were rushing towards Yi Shiwen. In the face of such an attack, Yi Shiwen did not retreat at all. He also rushed forward. The 7th metal ancestral chi in his hand suddenly manifested and turned into a long saber. The saber light flickered, and there was a kind of cold light on the surface of the saber. It was swallowing the chaos energy. Bang! Yi Shiwen held the long saber in his hand and slashed the bronze dragon in half. The blood essence and copper fragments scattered all over the sky exploded. In an instant they turned into essence energy all over the sky. However, it could not stop Yi Shiwen's path at all. He himself seemed to have transformed into such a treasured saber. Every time he slashed, he could slash a huge crack in the Bronze Kingdom and destroy everything that he could come into contact with. The so-called bronze ferocious beasts, divine beasts, and bronze weapons were nothing in front of Yi Shiwen's long saber. They rampaged all the way and caused the entire Bronze Nation to explode. It was as if someone had slashed the entire Bronze Kingdom in half with a saber from afar. The whole scene was incomparably shocking. What a fierce person! What a fast saber! Tong Zun did not expect Yi Shiwen to be able to burst out such combat power in his own domain. Those bronze divine beasts, ferocious beasts, and bronze weapons were formed by his understanding of the laws. They were the supreme laws that guarded his inner world. Even if it was an expert of the same realm, It would be difficult to break through if they fell into it unless they also opened their own inner world to fight against it. Because in the inner world, all the laws of heaven were written by him. All other laws would be rejected, and only the bronze laws would be effective. Whether it was the celestial master or the emperor, they all fought with the laws. In this case, the laws were restricted. No matter how great their power was, they could not burst out. It was not magical to rely on their own power. However, Yi Shiwen was different. He was only relying on his own strength. He was courageous and diligent. He was able to inflict serious damage to his inner world with one blade strike. And he could split it open with 3 blade strikes. Perhaps his inner world would have collapsed if he hadn't exerted so much effort to maintain it. Is he really a physique cultivator? As far as he knew, only the physique cultivator was so terrifying. He could only rely on his physical body to have a terrifying power that was hard to find in the world. However, the current situation didn't allow him to think too much. Yi Shiwen had already broken through his layers of encirclement in just a short span of a breath. His bronze ominous beasts, mythological beasts, and bronze divine soldiers had all been cut down. Yi Shiwen cut through all the thistles and thorns all the way until he arrived in front of him. Yi Shiwen seemed to be accumulating power. Every step he took would accumulate more power. His imposing aura had already reached a terrifying level. Just by relying on this kind of imposing aura, he could scare people to death. He had reached the most dangerous time. Chapter 3505. Yi Shiwen accumulated an imposing aura with every step he took. He didn't know how many steps he had taken along the way, but his imposing aura had already erupted to the extreme. At this moment, he had already turned into a saber master, a true saber master. For someone like him who had mastered 3,000 martial arts laws, any kind of weapon could be turned into the most terrifying attack. Moreover, the long saber transformed from the gung metal ancestral chi was almost invincible. One saber could destroy a large number of bronze beasts and mythological beasts. No one could resist it. The Copper Lord, who was in front of Yi Shiwen, finally realized that something was wrong. He shook his hands, and a bronze halberd appeared directly. It carried the characteristics of the Bronze Age. It was refined by using all the copper essence in the world. When it was 10% complete, it was already earth-shattering and earth-shattering. He didn't have the opportunity to use it before. Yi Shiwen seized the opportunity and beat him up. And now, he finally used it. The long halberd directly met the saber, and only a loud roar was heard. A peerless collision broke out between the bronze halberd and the gung metal long saber held by Yi Shiwen. The terrifying wind directly spread in all directions, annihilating the chaos, and directly impacted the origin of the Great Way. The battle between the two was simply fatal. For those below the heavenly master level, they could be annihilated in an instant. At this moment, in the city, many emperor lords raised their heads and saw this scene. They only felt incomparable shock in their eyes, as if they still couldn't believe that a battle between heavenly masters could be so terrifying. In the distant chaos, the battle between the two was beyond everyone's imagination. Fortunately, they had the protection of the boundary, so they didn't have to worry about being swept by the aftermath and directly turning into ashes. At this moment, they finally understood that the gap between them and heavenly masters was too big. Dang buzz! The Copper Lord felt his hands trembling all of a sudden. A terrifying counterforce raged on his hands. It made him feel as if the web between his thumb and forefinger was about to explode. This feeling was even more terrifying than when he used the willpower of the heaven-splitting demonic axe to resist Yi Shiwen's demonic whip. Most of the power of the previous attack had been absorbed by the will of the heaven-splitting demonic axe. The will of the heaven-splitting demonic axe could not hold on any longer and collapsed on the spot. Moreover, Yi Shiwen had used a magic whip that he had just obtained at that time. But now, he had used the 7th metal ancestral chi to launch an attack with the 7th metal long blade. So, the might of this attack couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as before. This made him feel an even more terrifying pressure than before. Such great strength. Only then did Bronze Lord truly understand that if a person's strength reached a certain level, they could actually create such a terrifying deterrent force. It was just the law of power, but it had been comprehended to this extent. The power that could be unleashed in an instant could directly shatter all other laws. Time laws, space laws, and even his bronze laws were nothing in the face of this simple strike. This was the sight of someone who had cultivated a single law to the peak. Originally, because he had cultivated the bronze laws, he had also tempered his physical body to a very profound realm. It could be said that it was difficult to meet an opponent in the same realm. Even if he encountered a physique cultivator, he would not be afraid. But he was at a disadvantage in the fight with Yi Shiwen, and it wasn't just once or twice. It was indeed not the first time that he had experienced Yi Shiwen's astonishing strength. Especially after the Gung metal ancestral chi had fused into his body, Yi Shiwen's physical cultivation had far surpassed the so-called physical cultivators. Unless his opponent possessed an extremely rare physical body like the meritorious body, it would be impossible for him to compete with him. But Yi Shiwen didn't rely on his physical cultivation to make a living. So, even if it was a physique cultivator in the same realm, they would be suppressed in front of Yi Shiwen. Because they had never been as comprehensive as Yi Shiwen. He had no weaknesses at all. Every aspect of him was the strongest, stronger than the strongest point of others. This was the advantage of the 3,000 martial arts that he had cultivated. Although it was much more difficult to cultivate compared to ordinary people, once the cultivation was successful, the effect would be first class. Then, Tong Zun realized that there were cracks on his bronze halberd. He was on the verge of vomiting blood. What is that long saber made of? How can it be so terrifying? My halberd is a heavenly master Taoist tool, but cracks have appeared on it after one slash. How is this possible? The Bronze Lord almost vomited blood. His halberd was his treasure. It was also the real trump card that he had relied on for many years. He didn't even use it when he was beaten by Yi Shiwen last time. Now, cracks had appeared on it after just one collision. He looked at the long saber in Yi Shiwen's hand, and a look of jealousy flashed in his eyes. Although there are cracks, your momentum has also been interrupted. Do you still want to use that slash just now? The Bronze Lord roared. At the cost of the cracks on his bronze halberd, Yi Shiwen's indomitable momentum had finally been restrained. He couldn't escape from that attack just now. If he didn't face it head-on, then Yi Shiwen's momentum would continue to grow. Eventually, it would reach a situation where he could be killed with one slash. Even if there wasn't much difference in strength between two people, once one of them had accumulated enough momentum, then the consequences would be completely unimaginable. However, something that almost scared him to death happened. Yi Shiwen raised his saber again, but his momentum that should have been eliminated didn't weaken in the slightest. Instead, it became even stronger. What's going on? It's not like he didn't accumulate momentum. How can this momentum be so terrifying? The Bronze Lord couldn't imagine how Yi Shiwen did it. Yi Shiwen's momentum should have been eliminated in that attack just now, but when they really fought, he realized that it wasn't the case at all. Yi Shiwen sneered. He didn't intend to explain at all. The long saber fell as usual. This saber exploded in the chaos. Even the most imaginative person couldn't imagine how terrifying and amazing this saber was. This was an extreme attack. For Yi Shiwen, this was just a casual attack. This was his strength after a comprehensive closed-door training. When he was practicing the martial lord's seal, it didn't just increase his refining skills. His understanding of the Great Way had also improved tremendously. Boom! This saber was also blocked by the Bronze Lord's long halberd. Buzz! An incomparably loud sound was heard. The Bronze Lord's hands suddenly exploded. His originally bloody perlicue finally couldn't hold on any longer and exploded. The long halberd was directly blown away. It couldn't withstand this terrifying force and instantly flew out. There was another obvious crack on the long halberd. Two sabers left two cracks on the long halberd. Yi Shiwen's strength had erupted to a terrifying level. His momentum didn't decrease at all. Instead, it became more and more powerful. That was the qi in his heart. After the baptism of the sacrificial era, it had reached an unimaginable level. As long as he still had the heart to pursue the Great Way, this qi couldn't be eliminated. How is this possible? Tong Zun let out a blood-curdling scream. Both of his hands were blown up, and golden blood sprayed everywhere into the primal chaos. It was actually able to create a huge hole in the primal chaos. It was a black hole that devoured everything. I don't believe it. How can your saber be so powerful? The Bronze Lord couldn't believe that the Gungjin long saber in Yi Shiwen's hands was so terrifying. Most importantly, he had never heard that Yi Shiwen used a saber. This was different from any information he knew. According to the information he had investigated, Yi Shiwen was good at using a sword. His martial arts had reached the peak. However, he didn't expect that Yi Shiwen's saber had reached the stage of entering the Great Way. It was so terrifying. There weren't any fancy saber techniques, nor were there any powerful magic skills. He merely relied on the terrifying power flowing in his body to push the saber's power to the limit. The most terrifying aspect of the Gungjin ancestral energy, that unstoppable offensive power, had completely erupted in Yi Shiwen's hands. It's useless even if you don't believe me. Yi Shiwen flew directly above the Bronze Lord like a dazzling sun. His figure rapidly changed its position, as if he had integrated an extremely profound agility technique into it. I'll kill you in 3 moves. This is the 3rd move. As soon as Yi Shiwen's voice fell, the martial lord's seal suddenly flew out of his body. This was the first time he used the martial lord's seal after he had mastered it. The Bronze Lord didn't know that Yi Shiwen still had such a trump card. However, he felt a great danger and retreated again and again. However, it was too late. The martial lord's seal projected endless mountains, rivers, and heaven and earth. It seemed as if it wanted to recreate a new world in this chaos. Then, the Bronze Lord was shocked to find that he was frozen. It should be said that he was completely suppressed by the fortune realm projected by the martial lord's seal. It was the will of the world suppressing him. Even if he wanted to struggle, it was not enough in the face of this power. Then, he could only horror to find that Yi Shiwen had appeared in front of him with a long saber. He didn't know when Yi Shiwen had appeared. Stop! An extremely angry roar came from the direction of the Sun City. However, it was useless. No power could stop this saber. In that instant, the saber radiance shone brightly. The Bronze Lord was slashed into 2 halves. Even his body and spirit were slashed into 2 halves. His spirit struggled under the saber aura and screamed as it turned into nothingness. 3 sabers to kill the Bronze Lord. Chapter 3506. Yi Shiwen killed Copper Zun, who was already at the peak of the 5th realm, in 3 slashes. Yi Shiwen's amazing combat power was evident. Ordinary 5th realm experts were no match for him. Originally, Yi Shiwen had been able to beat Bronze Lord Zun by taking advantage of his mistakes. But now, he had killed Bronze Lord Zun in 3 moves. Yi Shiwen's fighting prowess had increased exponentially after refining the revered martial seal. He couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as before. The next step was to break through to the 5th realm in one go. At that time, his combat power would be able to break through to the 6th realm. As long as he didn't encounter a high-level heavenly master above the 7th realm, he would be absolutely safe. However, he didn't have time to think about this at this time. After the loud roar, a figure with a terrifying aura approached directly. The speed was extremely fast, and in just a moment it was already catching up. It was the Moon City Lord. The Moon City Lord had just escaped. Before he could rejoice, he saw his most loyal subordinate killed by Yi Shiwen in 3 slashes. Even though in Huang Xiaolong's heart, Tong Zun was definitely not as important as the Yin-Yang Emperor and the Fusion Emperor, Tong Zun had been loyal and devoted to him for so many years. Tong Zun had even betrayed the Fortune Divine Dynasty for Huang Xiaolong's sake, leading the Devil Path era here. Even if he had a heart of stone, he couldn't really be indifferent to such a loyal subordinate. Moreover, his only son and his most loyal subordinate had died in Yi Shiwen's hands. How could he tolerate such a result? He suddenly flew into a rage and was extremely angry. "Marshal Zun, I will kill you!" The roar of the City Lord of Moon City shook the entire primal chaos. He was the most supreme figure in the world. Even in the many ancient epics, a figure like him was the most supreme. Those who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. The murderous intent he released shook the earth and mountains. The chaos erupted like raging waves, wave after wave. The terrifying murderous intent turned into a frenzy, almost drowning Yi Shiwen. Fortunately, Yi Shiwen was already prepared. He knew that the Moon City Lord would definitely come out, and it wouldn't be long. Therefore, he used all his strength and killed Copper Zun in 3 moves. However, the Moon City Lord came out much earlier than he initially thought. However, he was still prepared. The first wave of chaos turned into a terrifying attack wave, almost engulfing him. However, his reaction was faster. His body also released a terrifying murderous intent. Although his strength couldn't be compared to the Moon City Lord, it was still very easy for him to freeze the chaos. His entire body was like a sea-stabilizing needle, freezing the chaos within thousands of miles. Up, down, left, right, the sun, the moon, and the universe. Everything around him was completely frozen. Meanwhile, the chaos outside of this range was still slamming over at an alarming speed. In a split second, Yi Shiwen clearly saw the Moon City Lord waving his hand, and the entire chaos was sealed. The chaos space was completely locked. The direction of Sun City was completely sealed. In this split second, Yi Shiwen clearly saw the Moon City Lord waving his hand, and the entire chaos was sealed. The chaos space was completely locked, and the direction of Sun City was completely blocked. This also meant that he couldn't return to Sun City, and the Sun City Lord obviously couldn't help him at this time. Even if he wanted to break out, there was still the Scarlet Serpent Demon, who was enough to hold him back. The Moon City Lord wanted to completely seal off his escape route, and then force him to his death. In an instant, Yi Shiwen had already made a decision. A pair of wings instantly stretched out behind him. This pair of wings was shining with golden light, and the laws were flowing on it in the form of liquid. The laws of time, space, and speed had all evolved to the extreme. Whoosh! In the next second, Yi Shiwen had already appeared in the endless distant void. And the place where he had been fighting a moment ago had already been grabbed by a big chaotic hand. It had crushed it forcefully. Yi Shiwen couldn't help but be slightly shocked. This giant chaotic hand was really terrifying. He didn't have much time to think, and immediately turned around to escape. It was impossible to escape to Sun City now, because Sun City was currently sealed, and Moon City had become the base camp of the ancient era. If he rushed up, it would undoubtedly be courting death, and he wasn't a match for the Moon City Lord, so he had to escape frantically. As soon as he escaped, the Moon City Lord actually caught up with him, and he could faintly feel the terrifying aura of the Moon City Lord. Boom! 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 The giant chaotic hand kept exploding in the chaos, and every time it exploded, everything within thousands of miles would be blown away. Any existence under this giant chaotic hand couldn't withstand a single blow. Although he seemed to be vulnerable in front of a middle heavenly master, in fact, it wasn't that simple. He was still the top existence in the world, and it could only be said that the strength of a middle heavenly master was too strong. At this time, in front of Yi Shiwen, the Moon City Lord finally erupted with his original strength. The Moon City Lord's face was gloomy. Yi Shiwen had killed his son and his most loyal subordinate, so in his heart, Yi Shiwen was already a target to be killed. Yi Shiwen obviously knew this, but it was useless. The Moon City Lord continued to chase after him. In terms of comprehension of the speed law, Yi Shiwen was naturally above the Moon City Lord. Yi Shiwen had already comprehended the speed law to the space-time law. It could be said to be shocking. Yi Shiwen was confident that he wouldn't fall behind even if he was compared to a middle Empyrean. However, the problem was that his skills were far inferior to the Moon City Lord's. The Moon City Lord relied on his own superb skills to withstand everything. From time to time, he would spit out essence energy, and then there would be a burst of speed, and he was getting closer and closer to Yi Shiwen. Every breath of essence energy required tens of thousands of years of cultivation. How could the Moon City Lord not feel heartache when he spat it out just like that? However, there was no better way to vent his anger than to kill Yi Shiwen. He simply couldn't care about anything else. Sensing that the Moon City Lord was getting closer and closer, Yi Shiwen could only grit his teeth and prepare for battle. The Moon City Lord was determined to kill him today. A breath of essence energy consumed tens of thousands of years of cultivation. It seemed extravagant, but no one knew how many years the Moon City Lord had cultivated for. He also didn't know how many billions of years he had cultivated. When the Fortune Creation Heaven Lord was still around, he was already an extremely powerful powerhouse. Although doing this would hurt his vitality, it wouldn't hurt his origin, so he didn't care. Yi Shiwen's martial power was far inferior to that of the City Lord of the Moon City. Even if he had used the seventh metal ancestral chi to refine his gilded tyrant form, it was still not enough to fight against a matchless powerhouse like the City Lord of the Moon City. The reason for that was because the Moon City's City Lord's abilities were simply too many. Relying on these methods alone was useless. Most importantly, the difference in their skills was too great. Yi Shiwen was only at the peak of the fourth realm, while the Moon City Lord was already a peak heavenly venerate at the peak of the ninth realm. They weren't on the same level at all. At this time, the supreme ancestral symbol was floating up and down in his body. Yi Shiwen gritted his teeth. If it really didn't work, he could only rely on the supreme ancestral symbol to fight. The Gung Metal Ancestral Chi was only one of the origins of the Gung Metal Major World. It was not yet formed and was considered a semi-finished product. Its power was limited. Even if it evolved, it could only hurt the Moon City Lord at most, and this was when the Moon City Lord was unprepared. The difference in strength between the two sides was that great. But the supreme ancestral symbol was different. It was the origin of the world that had already formed. Its power was unimaginable, and Yi Shiwen couldn't use its full power yet. Moreover, Yi Shiwen hadn't had the time to properly comprehend the uses of the supreme ancestral symbol. But it was too late now. There was no other way. He could only try. There was only one battle. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen gritted his teeth. According to the chant that Venerable Heavenly Talisman Immortal had taught him, he completely fused the supreme ancestral symbol into his body. At this moment, countless runes appeared in Yi Shiwen's body like veins. Yi Shiwen only felt endless power emerge from the supreme ancestral symbol, and then suddenly boil, rushing into his limbs and bones. Human unity. This was the fundamental method of the entire Talisman Taoism era. What the Talisman Taoism era cultivated was Talisman Taoism. From the beginning of their cultivation, they cultivated a Talisman Taoism. They nurtured a Talisman Taoism in their body and nurtured it to become stronger and stronger. In a battle, once a Talisman Taoist was pushed to his limit, he would release the state of human unity. That was his strongest state. Previously, venerable heavenly talisman immortal, had taught Yi Shiwen the most superior talisman Tao magical power. Among them, this person could temporarily fuse with the power of the supreme ancestral symbol. This was also one of the reasons why Yi Shiwen accepted the supreme ancestral symbol. Otherwise, if the supreme ancestral symbol could only be used to comprehend the laws of the talisman Tao, it would be a little too useless. Although it could help Yi Shiwen, it wouldn't affect him much even if it didn't. But it was different if the human unity could be used. Previously, when the Devil Tao era attacked the Talisman Tao era, they had already surrounded the entire Talisman Tao era. Venerable Heavenly Talisman Immortal was able to kill his way out and even forcibly resist the heaven-splitting Devil Axe, and escape, because he relied on the human unity of the supreme ancestral symbol. It forcibly increased his power. Yi Shiwen felt an explosive power raging in every cell of his body. This kind of violent power was constantly tearing his body apart, as if it wanted to destroy him. Chapter 3507. An incomparably terrifying energy was wreaking havoc in his body. It was just like a galloping beast wreaking havoc in the jungle. It couldn't even stop. Even with Yi Shiwen's strength, there was no way for him to control it. That was because this power was too terrifying. It was so huge that it was hard to imagine. Yi Shiwen had never possessed such terrifying power. This was the ancestral symbol refined by the talisman ancestor of the Talisman Tao era. Its power was naturally great. The supreme ancestral symbol had always been the guardian of the Talisman Tao era. It could be said that the supreme ancestral symbol had saved the Talisman Tao era from danger several times. Even Heaven Talisman Immortal had escaped by relying on the supreme ancestral symbol. Although Yi Shiwen had high hopes for the power of the supreme ancestral symbol from the beginning, he never thought that the supreme ancestral symbol could contain such terrifying power. If it had been another celestial master, even if it had been Bronze Lord, his body would have exploded. Only someone like him, who had a terrifying physical cultivation base and the support of the Gung metal ancestral qi, could barely contain this violent force. Even so, Yi Shiwen knew that this situation could not last for long. If he maintained this state for a long time, his body would be torn into countless pieces. Even someone as powerful as Heaven Talisman Immortal was left with such a terrible injury that could not be healed for a long time. She could only recover a portion of her strength. In fact, the fundamental reason was this person's state. In a short period of time, the person's state had indeed greatly increased her combat power. She could even escape from the heaven-splitting demonic act. However, because there were too many experts from the Demon Tao era besieging the Talisman Tao era, she could not kill them all. The delay was too long and left permanent injuries. Even when she met Yi Shiwen, she could not heal it. This was also the reason why she finally chose to submit to Yi Shiwen. Originally, with Yi Shiwen's strength, it would be difficult for him to have any contact with Heaven Talisman Immortal. However, that battle had really hurt his vitality. Therefore, when she gave the supreme ancestral symbol to Yi Shiwen, she had warned him not to use it carelessly. She couldn't even withstand the supreme ancestral talisman's fusion state with her peak heavenly venerable strength, let alone Yi Shiwen's strength. Initially, Yi Shiwen didn't care much about it. However, he could feel the terrifying power contained in it now. Yi Shiwen had always had the image of a gentle and elegant young man. However, his skin had turned red at this moment. The blood vessels inside his body had burst open. A dreadful power had burst out from his pores. Even the primal chaos energy had been annihilated. Terrifying. He looked like a beast that was about to be released from its cage. This was his current appearance. Just a glance at him was enough to give off an extremely terrifying feeling. The moment this aura appeared, it alerted the Sun City Lord and the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate, who were still fighting in Sun City. It wasn't just the two of them. Even the heavenly venerates felt it. Because they were too far away from the fortune divine dynasty, the heavenly venerables were unable to see through the countless worlds with a single glance, like in the fortune divine dynasty. However, they could still feel the terrifying aura erupting from the primal chaos. The aura that erupted in an instant made their hearts palpitate. What the hell is going on? The heavenly venerates had the same thought. They didn't know what it was in the primal chaos. One should know that in the endless primal chaos, there were also endless dangers. Many laws that could be reflected in a stable world were simply turbulent and couldn't be reflected in the primal chaos. Terrifying law storms, space fragments, time crystals, and chaotic beasts could be seen everywhere in the primal chaos. They were born from the will of the primal chaos. Some were as strong as the heavenly venerates, while some were as weak as the emperor lords. However, without exception, they were the most terrifying. There were even terrifying beasts that could fight against experts like the fortune god lord. This terrifying and violent aura was enough to make them feel terrified. It didn't have any attributes or epochs. It was just violent, terrifying, and powerful. Even the heavenly venerates in Sun City could feel the supreme ancestral symbol energy erupting from Yi Shiwen's body, let alone the Moon City Lord. He had just caught up to Yi Shiwen when he felt that he had encountered a beast that had just burst out of its cage. He immediately became alert. Originally, he didn't care about Yi Shiwen at all. As long as he caught up to Yi Shiwen, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill Yi Shiwen. However, he felt an extreme sense of danger as soon as he caught up to Yi Shiwen. It was the feeling of being chased by a beast. He hadn't felt such an extreme sense of danger for many years. He had been a high and mighty peak heavenly venerate for many years. He was also one of the top 10 city lords. Including those ancient epics, there were very few who could pose a fatal threat to him. He had never had such a feeling before. Even the Middle Empyrean that had sealed him didn't give him such a feeling. He didn't feel that he was weaker than a Middle Empyrean. It was just that he was restrained by the Middle Empyrean's speed laws. Purely based on his own magic power, a Middle Empyrean wouldn't be much stronger than him. However, Yi Shiwen was different. In terms of realm, Yi Shiwen was still nothing. Even the physical cultivation that Yi Shiwen was so proud of, in his opinion, could be dealt with. After all, the difference in realm was too big. It was big enough to ignore everything. His spiritual power was many times stronger than Yi Shiwen's. But now, all these advantages were useless. Yi Shiwen's eyes erupted with a kind of threatening chill, as well as a kind of dreadful and violent power. This power alone offset all his advantages. He only felt goosebumps on his back, as if he had encountered a peerless monster. "Wu Zun, do you have any last words?" the Moon City Lord said faintly. Although he felt an extremely terrifying threat, he still wanted to maintain his demeanor. In his opinion, there should not be a situation where he had to fight Yi Shiwen. Even if he felt the terrifying power in Yi Shiwen's body, it would not be an exception. Yi Shiwen just grinned. He felt that the power in his body was not only surging, but it was also becoming more and more terrifying. It was about to explode. There's not much time. Let's finish this quickly. The Moon City Lord could feel the uncontrollable tyranny in Yi Shiwen's words. He couldn't help but sneer and say, "Although I don't know what method you use to increase your skills to this extent, it is useless. Strength that is not obtained through cultivation is not obtained through cultivation after all. You can be brave for a moment, but you can't become the foundation of eternity. Didn't you feel great when you killed my son and my subordinates? Now it's time for you to pay the price." Before he finished speaking, the Moon City Lord finally launched his ultimate technique. No matter how much he looked down on Yi Shiwen's state, he could instinctively feel how dangerous Yi Shiwen's state was. How could he really let this go? In an instant, countless huge stone tablets appeared in the entire chaos. These stone tablets towered into the chaos and surrounded Yi Shiwen. They were really huge, and there were too many of them. They were like stars dotting the starry sky, and Yi Shiwen was the moon among the stars. Each stone tablet was engraved with unimaginable scriptures. Below the stone tablets there were hells, and it was unknown how many demon gods were suppressed in those hells. This was the technique that the Moon City Lord had used to deal with the Middle Heavenly Venerate. Although the Middle Heavenly Venerate had easily broken it, it did not mean that this technique was not terrifying. This was because Yi Shiwen could now feel how terrifying the great formation formed by these stone tablets was. It seemed like a random layout, but it contained a kind of great Tao. It used the power of the great Tao to suppress Yi Shiwen. Below these steels was the graveyard of countless demonic gods, countless experts from ancient times until now buried in the primal chaos. They were even larger than stars, endless fluctuations connected into countless barriers and formations. No matter what kind of power you have, you can't escape from the great formation formed by my moon steel and moon prison. It's useless even if you have the speed of a Middle Heavenly Venerate. The Moon City Lord said indifferently. This was his technique, and it was not weak. Losing to a Middle Heavenly Venerate was just an accident. This time, he wanted to suppress Yi Shiwen and turn him into one of the demons in the moon prison. He wanted Yi Shiwen to become his own power and be used by him. Roar! Countless angry roars erupted from the moon prison. These were the angry roars of demonic gods. Some of them were still alive and powerful to an unimaginable level. Some had already died and turned into vengeful spirits that ruled over a region. Moon steel, this is the moon steel. Yi Shiwen felt that even his breathing had become rough. The power in his body could not be suppressed and was about to burst out. This was the moon steel that had been easily shattered by the Middle Heavenly Venerate. It was nothing in front of the Middle Heavenly Venerate. However, it made him feel as if he could not move even an inch. These invisible fluctuations were like sharp blades. If Yi Shiwen dared to move even a little bit, he would be directly killed. This was a strange scene. It seemed as if Yi Shiwen had also been trapped inside. There were countless scriptures engraved on the surface of each of the moon steels. Now, the scriptures had begun to fly out one after another. Then, they took shape in the air. They shook off countless primal chaos and transformed into a cage. They wanted to subdue Yi Shiwen just like how he had subdued the other devil god. However, at this moment, Yi Shiwen suddenly opened his eyes. A terrifying power erupted from his body. Chapter 3508. The power in Yi Shiwen's body erupted all of a sudden, just like a wild beast that had been released from its cage. Boundless power spread out in all directions like a surging sea. Boom! There was a deafening roar, and the pressure exerted on Yi Shiwen's body disappeared completely. It wasn't a magical power, nor was it a nomological law. He had relied on the energy in his body to forcefully break through. Then, he looked at the cage that had descended from the sky and moved. This was the first time he had fought with a peak heavenly venerate like the Moon City Lord. Boom! Power erupted from Yi Shiwen's body. His entire body was golden and dazzling, and all kinds of laws turned into ribbons that danced in the air. This was his various understandings of the Great Path, and all of them manifested around him. 6 paths of reincarnation fist. Yi Shiwen blasted out a punch, and the momentum of his fist rushed directly into the chaos, cutting off the entire chaos. The power of the fist rolled out and turned the endless chaos into powder. Yi Shiwen had become extremely dangerous at this moment. He had used all of his magical powers and martial techniques in order to vent the excessive and violent energy in his body. Bang! There was a deafening collision sound. The moment the cage fell, Yi Shiwen pierced through it. The entire cage shattered and turned into spirit energy that scattered all over the sky. Even the divine marks of the Moon City Lord gradually dimmed. Although the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation fist was already very strong, The reason it could erupt with such power and casually break the attack of the Moon City Lord was because of the endless energy. Violent, direct, and invincible. The expression of the Moon City Lord couldn't help but turn a little solemn when he saw that his attack had been shattered by Yi Shiwen's punch. However, it was just a little solemn. In his eyes, he still didn't take Yi Shiwen seriously at all. Wu Zun, you aren't too bad. However, your methods are simply useless in front of some people. In front of me, who has grasped the world origin source, all your methods are just a joke, the Moon City Lord said coldly. As soon as the Moon City Lord's voice fell, a moon steel fell directly. It grew bigger and bigger in an instant, as if a world had fallen on the spot. Within this moon steel, a huge moon prison appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. Countless demons rushed out of it and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. One after another, they opened their bloody mouths to swallow Yi Shiwen. In the eyes of these demon gods who had been suppressed for countless years and were already a little delirious, Yi Shiwen, whose vitality was as vigorous as the ocean, was the best food. Yi Shiwen was fearless. It was not that he did not know how terrifying the steel of the moon was. The steel of the moon had suppressed countless powerful enemies since ancient times. It could be said to be a supreme secret technique. However, he was not afraid. He stretched out his arms, and a dazzling golden light erupted from his arms. Wisps of the great path's nomological laws flowed out, causing his arms to sublimate. 3,000 martial paths were faintly discernible, shattering the chaos. Boom! There was a loud tearing sound as Yi Shiwen punched out with both fists. His fists were like two roaring golden dragons, representing the firmness and yang of heaven and earth. All order and all evil were suppressed. The two golden dragons swept into the midst of those demon gods. The scene of the middle heavenly master destroying the steel of the moon and destroying the moon prison seemed to have reappeared today. However, Yi Shiwen's fighting style was even more violent. The middle heavenly master relied on his supreme speed to bring about terrifying destructive power, while Yi Shiwen relied on his majestic and violent energy. Boom! 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 Almost in an instant, those demon gods suppressed by the moon prison that were close to the two golden dragons were all turned into ashes. Their flesh and blood exploded and dissipated in the chaos. Everywhere they passed, they were completely swept away. All of this took a long time to describe, but it actually happened in an instant. Those tens of thousands of demon gods that had rushed down had all been turned into ashes, and Yi Shiwen's fists directly hit the steel of the moon. Boom! Although Yi Shiwen had swept away countless demon gods along the way, the power of his fists was still not reduced. They directly hit the steel of the moon. Buzz! Waves of ripples appeared on the surface of the steel of the moon. They spread out with Yi Shiwen's fists as the core like the surface of water, and the sound of metal cicadas could also be heard. This was the protection of the steel of the moon. His scriptures began to flow like flowing water, forming a protective barrier that protected the steel of the moon within. However, this protective barrier that was formed by the scriptures only lasted for a moment before it suddenly shattered, and fiercely hit the steel of the moon. Clang! The steel of the moon seemed to be made of stone, but in reality, it was made of some unknown material. It was extremely sturdy. However, this sturdiness only lasted for a moment. Yi Shiwen only let out a slight snort, and a terrifying energy erupted from his arms. Boom! The steel of the moon finally couldn't hold on any longer, and it shattered on the spot. This steel of the moon, which could suppress countless demon gods, was ultimately unable to suppress Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen had only used his fists to shatter all the shackles, and suppress everything. All of this made Yi Shiwen feel as if his entire body was surging, and his blood was boiling. At this moment, the warlike genes in his bones seemed to have awakened, and completely erupted. This berserk power incited his fighting spirit at every moment. Humph! The city lord of the Moon City was slightly surprised when he saw that his steel of the moon was unexpectedly unable to suppress Yi Shiwen. The amount of violent energy overflowing from Yi Shiwen's body was simply too much. Even at his level, he would still be shocked by this amount of energy. However, he wasn't anxious. How could he not see that this was a method to increase his fighting strength in a short period of time? This was Yi Shiwen's biggest weakness. If he didn't cultivate himself, he wouldn't be able to cultivate himself in the end. With a thought, another steel of the moon came crashing down. At the same time that Yi Shiwen had just destroyed a steel of the moon, another one fell down. There was still an endless number of steels of the moon, and it was simply impossible to destroy them all. Even experts of the same level would be dragged to death by him, let alone someone like Yi Shiwen who had forcibly raised his strength with the help of the supreme ancestral symbol. As long as there was time, Yi Shiwen wouldn't even need to make a move. Yi Shiwen would collapse without a fight. When the second steel fell, Yi Shiwen understood the thoughts of the city lord of the Moon City. He had to admit that the city lord of the Moon City was indeed rich in fighting experience, and had seen through his weakness almost immediately. His body was suffering from a terrifying tearing at every moment, and he had no choice but to make a move. Only by making a move and releasing some of his energy would he feel slightly better. However, he didn't have much time to think about these things at this time. The second steel had already fallen, and the third steel was also falling at a visible rate. There were too many steels of the moon, and they were almost like the vast stars in the sky. There was no way to destroy them all, and they fell like raindrops, slamming towards Yi Shiwen. Roar! Yi Shiwen let out a long roar, and many strange phenomena appeared around his body. The sun, the moon, the mountains, the rivers, the heavens, the earth, and the stars interweaved to form a world. His fists swept out again, and they pounced forward like two golden dragons. Boom! 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 A series of loud explosions resounded, and a moon tablet exploded on the spot with each explosion. Yi Shiwen was as valiant and invincible as a treasure dragon. He didn't retreat at all. On the contrary, he killed his way into the midst of those moon tablets, and started to fight. Countless steels of the moon were destroyed by his fists, and innumerable demon gods were killed by his fist. There was almost no one under his command. In the distance, the city lord of the Moon City was extremely indifferent, and he wasn't moved at all when he saw this scene. Every steel of the moon required a lot of effort to successfully refine. He didn't know how many years he had spent refining these steels of the Moon City. He didn't know how many demon gods he had suppressed in them over the years. However, he didn't care. Wasn't the purpose of refining steel of the moon for so many years so that they could be used on such occasions? The most important thing was to be able to use them to kill strong enemies. At this time, Yi Shiwen had become a real strong enemy in his heart. Although Yi Shiwen had relied on external forces to achieve this threat was genuine. At the very least, Yi Shiwen was a big trouble at the moment, and he had to find a way to solve it. He could clearly see that Yi Shiwen was already an arrow at the end of its flight, even though he still looked invincible. The surface of Yi Shiwen's skin had begun to crack, and blood was flowing out uncontrollably. Although he had practiced an extremely powerful holy healing technique, he could only barely recover a little, and couldn't stop his injuries from worsening. In this case, he wouldn't need to do much, and Yi Shiwen would die by his own hands. This also proved how sharp his vision was. His initial idea wasn't wrong at all. Don't be surprised and be defeated by the strange. Bang! Yi Shiwen's explosive fist energy once again smashed a steel into pieces. Every one of these steels wasn't simple, and he needed to use his full strength to break them. However, this wasn't the key. Instead, it was the fact that there were too many of these steels of the moon. It was almost endless. Yi Shiwen had broken countless steels of the moon from just now, but he still couldn't see the end. If this went on, he would definitely be exhausted to death. He could already feel that his body was already in tatters. If it weren't for the powerful recovery ability of a heavenly venerable's body and the miraculous phoenix regeneration technique, his body would have exploded long ago. Even a powerful body like him couldn't withstand the violent energy of the supreme ancestral symbol. An ordinary heavenly venerable wouldn't even be able to persist for half the time, and that would be enough for them to die without a burial. After all, borrowed power was only borrowed power, and not the right way. Fight! Yi Shiwen gritted his teeth, and the blood in his body surged even more violently. Chapter 3509. Yi Shiwen mobilized all of his qi and blood. The surging energy also surged together and exploded. Universe Creation Palm. Yi Shiwen finally broke out. He concentrated all of his power into the Universe Creation Palm. This palm almost gathered the power of heaven and earth together. Then, it fiercely reversed and covered all of a sudden. This was the strongest Universe Creation Palm that Yi Shiwen had ever unleashed. This palm shook the entire primal chaos. Everyone could sense the existence of this palm. This was the situation that could shake the world with one palm. Rumble! As this palm descended, the chaos within a radius of countless miles was completely destroyed. It directly swept out an area. With Yi Shiwen's main body as the starting point, and the end point of this area was none other than the Moon City Lord. Yi Shiwen used this palm as the price to directly sweep away the steel of the moon that was blocking in front of him. As the price of this palm strike, a few more parts of his body exploded. Although the power of gathering such a violent power in one breath had multiplied and he was able to use the Universe Creation Palm, the damage to his body had also multiplied. All of a sudden, his injuries had become much more serious, and the time he could last was even shorter. However, since he had already fought so far, he understood that it was meaningless to persist for too long. No matter how long he persisted, he would eventually be killed by the City Lord of Moon City. In fact, he might even be killed unscathed. The only way he could survive was to launch a counterattack and heavily injure or even kill the City Lord of Moon City. Since this was the only way to survive, he naturally had to go all out. At this time, no one could help him except himself. What? When the full Moon City Lord thought that he was about to trap Yi Shiwen to death and exhaust him to death, Yi Shiwen's attack actually directly swept out a path towards him. Yi Shiwen was different from the Middle Heavenly Venerable. The Middle Heavenly Venerable had relied on his terrifying speed to overcome all obstacles, and had arrived in front of Yi Shiwen at lightning speed. However, Yi Shiwen had used his berserk strength to sweep away all the moon steels in his path. Their methods were different, but they had the same result. City Lord of Moon City, where can you hide now? Yi Shiwen's voice was still far away, as if he was not close yet. However, in the blink of an eye, he had already rushed to the front of the Moon City Lord. The Moon City Lord was shocked. Yi Shiwen had already rushed in front of him. However, he did not panic at all. He had experienced hundreds of battles. Yi Shiwen was not enough to surprise him. Appear, Moon Gate. At this time, a huge portal appeared in front of him. This portal fell from the sky, but it didn't smash towards him. Instead, it directly stopped in front of him. Just this door alone was hundreds of thousands of meters tall. Ordinary people would not be able to see the entire door with their eyes. This door had cut the entire primal chaos into two halves. One half was his world, and the other half was Yi Shiwen's world. It was an insurmountable gap. Countless moon steels flew over from behind Yi Shiwen, and ferociously smashed towards him. The significance of Yi Shiwen's Universe Creation Palm would disappear if they caught up to him. Then, he would once again fall into the endless encirclement of the moon steels. Humph, Wu Zun, do you think that you can go against me just because you have some tricks up your sleeve? The Moon City Lord sneered. Even if you use all your tricks, you are not my match. You can't even hurt a hair of mine." The Moon City Lord was full of confidence. This moon gate was his strongest defense. It seemed to be a simple defense in front of him, but that was not the case. Instead, it cut the entire world into two halves. The two spaces were completely blocked and could not be passed through. Even a heavenly master would be cut in half by the divided space. It could be said to be a natural moat. Here, he was completely safe. No one could hurt him. This was the true face of all his magical powers. The steel of the moon killed strong enemies, and the moon gate protected his own safety. It could be said to be a combination of offense and defense. It was just that he had not used it when he had faced a middle heavenly master. This was not because he was too arrogant, but because he had not had a chance. The speed of a middle heavenly master was too fast. It was so fast that he did not have any time to react. He did not even have the chance to use the moon gate before he was directly sealed by the middle heavenly master. This was why the Moon City Lord had said that the Moon City Lord had been restrained. The speed of a middle heavenly master was too fast. For someone like him who relied on magical powers to conquer, it was undoubtedly the nemesis of all nemeses. No matter how many tricks and magical powers he had, it was useless if he could not use them. However, his confident expression suddenly froze. Drip, drip, drip. Drops of blood dripped from his face. His body, which was said to be indestructible, was actually injured. In front of him, a long saber had unknowingly approached him. The sharp saber aura had injured his heavenly venerate body 3 inches away from him. A long blade had broken through his moon gate, which was said to be invincible, and had arrived in front of him. In fact, if not for the moon gate's obstruction, this blade would have been enough to poke a hole in his head. How is this possible? He still couldn't believe it. Ever since his gate of the moon had formed, it had never been broken through. However, at his level, there were indeed people who could force him to use the gate of the moon, but they were as rare as phoenix feathers and Chelan horns. However, the name revered martial artist was definitely not on that list. That person was just a junior who had achieved enlightenment not many years ago. Are you really that confident in your moon gate? On the other side of the moon gate, Yi Shiwen chuckled. The long blade formed from the gung metal ancestral chi in his hand had completely sunk into the moon gate. In fact, the moon gate was indeed worthy of being the strongest defense of the Moon City's City Lord. It could be said that Yi Shiwen hadn't seen a more terrifying defense than this one in so many years. He would have had to expend a lot of energy to break it even if he used the supreme ancestral symbol's power to bombard it without the interference of the moon's steel. In that case, he would have lost the initiative long ago. The best way was to be like the middle heavenly master and use speed to break it, not giving him the opportunity to use the moon gate. However, in Yi Shiwen's opinion, the middle heavenly master's body of merit coupled with his peerless speed was enough to break the moon gate in one blow. In the world's martial arts, only speed was unbreakable and indestructible. The middle heavenly master had both of these. How could he not be powerful? However, Yi Shiwen had his own way, which was to use the long blade formed from the gung metal ancestral chi to break it in one blow. Just what is that saber of yours made of? Even if it is a Tao artifact, it is impossible to break my moon gate. The Moon City Lord's eyes widened in complete disbelief. The bloody scar on his face gradually deepened, from the upper right corner to the lower left corner. If it had been any closer, his entire head would have been cut off on the spot. For the Moon City Lord, who had been so confident just now, this was undoubtedly a slap in the face. This blade contained a power that even he was afraid of. When they had exchanged blows before, he had already been injured by the gung metal ancestral chi. It was just that at that time, Yi Shiwen had used all his strength to only break his skin and make him lose a few drops of blood. It was not as terrifying as it was now. There was no need to say how powerful the gung metal ancestral chi was. It was one of the origins of the gung metal era. Although it had yet to take form, its power was unquestionable. With Yi Shiwen's current skills, he was unable to fully unleash its power. Now, he was relying on the violent power of the supreme ancestral symbol in his body to finally unleash the power of the Gung metal ancestral qi and break the moon gate. He looked at Yi Shiwen again. There was a greedy look in his eyes, because he realized that Yi Shiwen seemed to have many secrets on him. Every single one of them was world-shaking. Whether it was the universe creation palm, or the technique that allowed his strength to skyrocket to the point where it was comparable to his own, or the long blade that could split his moon gate. Any one of them was enough to move a heavenly master of his level, because any one of them could greatly enhance his strength. If he could obtain all three, he was even confident that he could become one of the top heavenly masters. Even if he encountered a middle heavenly master, he would not be afraid, and he would be able to put up a fight. He might even be able to defeat and kill a middle heavenly master. Thinking of this, the greed in his heart suddenly burst out. Originally, in his opinion, killing Yi Shiwen wouldn't bring any benefits, nor would there be any benefits. He just wanted to avenge his son and his most loyal subordinate. But now, he didn't think so. After killing Yi Shiwen, he would obtain enormous benefit. It was simply unimaginable. As countless thoughts popped up in the Moon City Lord's mind, the moon gate in front of him began to crumble inch by inch. The place where Yi Shiwen's Gung metal ancestral qi had pierced through was the core of the entire moon gate. Although it was also its strongest point, it was also because of this that it was also its greatest weakness. The Gung metal ancestral qi had forcefully pierced through it, causing the moon gate to be unable to be maintained. Crack, crack. Various cracks quickly appeared on the moon gate like a dense spider web, engraving itself on the moon gate. Bang! There was another loud sound, and the moon gate shattered. Die! Yi Shiwen let out a loud roar after he had broken the moon gate with his blade. He then rushed to the front of the Moon City Lord, and blasted his fist forward. He wanted to kill the Moon City Lord. A great battle broke out instantly. Chapter 35:10. A real battle broke out. Yi Shiwen rushed to the front of the Moon City Lord in a single breath. He was racing against time because he was well aware of his own disadvantage. Relying on the supreme ancestral symbol to increase his strength was not the right way after all. Buzz! Yi Shiwen's fist energy tore through the sky, and a burst of terrifying explosive sounds erupted wherever it passed. There was a special vibration frequency, and it could even erupt with the most blazing rays of light. It was almost as terrifying as a fist that could destroy the world. Too fast. The speed of this punch was too fast. And all of this had happened too quickly. The Moon City Lord had not expected the situation to turn out like this. It should be known that he had the upper hand just now. How long had it been? Yet, he was suddenly crushed. The Moon City Lord's aura was rising and spreading, turning into a moon domain. Endless moonlight was like a giant hand trying to hold Yi Shiwen back. However, Yi Shiwen also knew that he had arrived at a critical moment. So, how could he give up? His eyes flashed with a sharp light. He crazily stimulated the magic power in his body, and crazily increased his fighting strength. At the same time, countless sword auras gushed out from every pore of his body, turning into destructive sword lights that destroyed any moonlight that flew over. They could not hold Yi Shiwen back at all. In the end, this punch still landed on the City Lord of Moon City, not giving him a chance to escape. Bang! Yi Shiwen's punch directly hit the Moon City Lord's head. There was a loud bang, and the Moon City Lord was blasted away like a meteor. Roar! The Moon City Lord felt an unprecedented sense of humiliation after being blasted away. Even a middle heavenly venerate did not make him feel this way. After all, they were of the same level. Being defeated by a middle heavenly venerate was not a humiliation. But what was Yi Shiwen? He was just a junior who had reached the Tao only 10,000 years ago. However, How could Yi Shiwen's attack end like this? He had finally managed to gain the upper hand. Although he had fused with the supreme ancestral symbol and was able to contend against the Moon City Lord, he could only contend against him. This was the first time he had gained the upper hand. He attacked mercilessly again. The martial elder seal flew out of his body, growing larger and larger until it turned into a small fortune realm. How is it possible for someone to refine a Tao artifact to this extent? The City Lord of the Moon City still couldn't believe what he had just seen. Yi Shiwen had fused the projection of the fortune realm into his revered martial seal. This was something impossible. This was different from the inner world within their bodies. It was a completely different concept. The inner world was an imitation of another world, and the laws that operated within it were all beneficial to him. However, this action was equivalent to duplicating a small version of the creation realm. The power of the entire Empyrean Tao artifact would be greatly increased. This was simply impossible, because the heavenly Taos would not allow it. From ancient times until now, only the Good Fortune Heavenly Lord had succeeded in creating the Good Fortune universe diagram. Yet Yi Shiwen had done this. From this point of view, it could be seen that Yi Shiwen's secrets weren't limited to just one or two. Normally speaking, every celestial master had their own secret, and the fortuitous encounters that they had had were too numerous to enumerate. He had had countless fortuitous encounters since the beginning of his cultivation. In fact, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he had had thousands of fortuitous encounters over the years. Every fortuitous encounter had greatly improved his strength. However, he was certain that there seemed to be no fortuitous encounter that could compare to Yi Shiwen's secrets. However, he was only thinking about it at this time. Yi Shiwen's violent attacks were already threatening his life. The martial honorable seal grew larger and larger, and the small creation realm within the martial honorable seal also grew larger and larger. Then, it suddenly slammed down. Boom! Even with the physical strength of the Moon City Lord, the martial honorable seal, which was infinitely strengthened by the energy of the supreme ancestral symbol, directly exploded under the bombardment. His physical body couldn't withstand such a bombardment at all, and directly exploded. Yi Shiwen's hand once again transformed into a long blade formed by the gung metal ancestral qi. He directly slashed down, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to directly kill the Moon City Lord. This was a crazy idea. The Moon City Lord's strength was unquestionable, and his spirit was also terrifying. He could contend with ordinary celestial masters without relying on his physical body. With Yi Shiwen's current strength, even if he entered the state of human conformity, it was still impossible to annihilate him in one blow. However, the long blade formed by the gung metal ancestral qi could, because the gung metal ancestral qi was too sharp. It was so sharp that it could kill ordinary celestial masters in one blow. And at this critical moment, the Moon City Lord let out a long roar. A spirit doppelganger condensed on top of his torn body, blocking in front of Yi Shiwen. Puchi! Yi Shiwen's long blade formed by the gung metal ancestral qi slashed this spirit doppelganger in one blow. This spirit doppelganger was also very good, but it had to nibble away at Yi Shiwen, who had now entered an extremely violent state. However, this little bit of time had also bought the most crucial time for the Moon City Lord. His body suddenly penetrated through time and space and gathered together. Ordinary celestial masters would not have any power to fight back when they were beaten to such an extent by Yi Shiwen, but he was different. He still had the ability to fight back. It was just that he had lost at least hundreds of thousands of years of cultivation by Yi Shiwen's blow. That doppelganger was a life-saving unique skill and magical power. It took him at least tens of millions of years to cultivate. Ever since he had cultivated it, he had never really used it. He did not expect that he would die here. In these tens of millions of years, He did not do anything but focused on cultivating this life-saving unique skill. This was equivalent to Yi Shiwen crippling his tens of millions of years of bitter cultivation. In addition to the steals of the moon that were destroyed by Yi Shiwen previously, and the loss of his physical body, he could be said to have suffered a serious injury by Yi Shiwen. Tisk, Yi Shiwen thought to himself. He actually let him escape. He did not expect the Moon City Lord to have such a life-saving unique skill. It was a life-saving magical power that would only be automatically activated after his physical body was destroyed. Each of these old monsters was more terrifying than the last. The most important thing was that they had more time to practice compared to Yi Shiwen. In fact, he wouldn't have enough time to practice the same kind of magical power even if he was given the same kind of magical power. Only celestial masters like them, whose cultivation had reached a limit that was difficult to break through easily, would cultivate all kinds of magical powers everywhere so that their combat power could not increase under the circumstances that their cultivation realm could not increase. That could be said to be the best opportunity. If that saber had hit, the Moon City Lord would have been seriously injured even if he did not die. There was no other possibility except to escape. He had almost been killed. If this news spread, there was no doubt that it would become an eternal legend. The last time a city lord of the 10 divine cities had died was a long time ago. In everyone's hearts they were eternal suns. Their radiance would never end. After escaping from Yi Shiwen's pursuit, the Moon City Lord took a few breaths. The injuries on his body were recovering at an astonishing speed. What a pity! Just a little bit more and you could have killed me. You seized the opportunity very accurately, but it is a pity that you still have no way to kill me, the Moon City Lord said coldly. His tone was as cold as 10,000 years of ice. There will be another chance, Yi Shiwen said. The spiritual power in his body was surging. It was like the most violent ocean that was erupting. There was nothing that could suppress it. This was the most terrifying battle of his life, but he had no choice. He could only fight with all his strength. If he did not succeed, only death awaited him. He was not an expert who had truly reached that realm, but with the power of the supreme ancestral symbol, he had the power to contend with the Moon City Lord. Bang! 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 All of this took a long time to describe, but it actually happened in an instant. More moon steels chased after him and directly smashed into Yi Shiwen's body, causing him to bleed profusely. Yi Shiwen gritted his teeth. If this continued, it was only a matter of time before he was killed by the Moon City Lord. Although he was not at a disadvantage on the battlefield, time was his greatest enemy. In this bloody battle, he had become unprecedentedly powerful. His understanding of the Great Tao had also greatly improved. With the power of the supreme ancestral symbol, he had forcefully broken through the barrier of the realm, allowing him to see more. However, the price he had paid was also very frightening. He had never imagined that the Moon City Lord could be this strong. He had used all his strength, but was still no match for him. You will die without a doubt. You can no longer control the injuries in your body, the Moon City Lord laughed. His smile was incomparably sinister. Yi Shiwen had injured his vitality, but how much better could he be? He could almost see Yi Shiwen's muscles rupturing with the naked eye. Blood was flowing out almost uncontrollably. When Yi Shiwen had just erupted, it was clearly not like this. At that time, Yi Shiwen had only shown signs of losing control. In reality, he had still been able to control it, but now he was powerless to prevent his body from being damaged. Although he did not know what this move was, he knew that it would cause endless trouble. Even if Yi Shiwen did not die in this battle, his foundation would be damaged, and there was no way he could escape. I am a little unable to control it. Because of this, I have to end this battle quickly, Yi Shiwen said. His problem was that even the Moon City Lord could see the uncontrollable injuries on his body. How could he not know? Since you have forced me to this point, I can only fight to the death. Yi Shiwen's eyes were filled with determination. Opposite him, although the Moon City Lord did not know how Yi Shiwen planned to attack, he still took the initiative to be safe. In an instant, he surpassed the speed of light. Chapter 35:11. Although the Moon City Lord felt that as long as he trapped Yi Shiwen, he would be defeated without a fight, Yi Shiwen had continuously surprised him since the start of the battle. He had repeatedly exceeded his expectations. In order to ensure that there would be no accidents, he still made his move. One strike directly pierced through everything. The Moon City Lord was extremely terrifying. With Yi Shiwen's strength, there was no hope of fighting him head-on. Bang! Yi Shiwen's shoulder exploded and turned into a mass of bloody mist, dripping with blood. But Yi Shiwen's attack also arrived. In his hand, the gung metal ancestral chi transformed into a long blade. The blade slashed at the Moon City Lord, tearing a huge wound on his body. Injury for injury. Both of their injuries had reached an extremely terrifying level. Yi Shiwen's shoulder had burst open and was emitting hot air. Golden blood could be seen everywhere, and his golden bones were exposed outside. Yi Shiwen no longer had any expression of pain on his face. His entire body was being torn apart. Every cell was being repeatedly torn apart, reformed and torn apart. Under such circumstances, a mere shoulder explosion was nothing. It was just a small matter. So strong, Yi Shiwen said. Originally, he had no way of injuring the Moon City Lord. But he had the gung metal ancestral chi in his hand. The gung metal ancestral chi could both attack and defend. Otherwise, he would not have lasted until now. He would have been killed by the Moon City Lord long ago. Even if he had not been killed, he would not have been able to withstand the explosion of the supreme ancestral symbol's energy. He would have exploded and died. The Moon City Lord's expression was extremely ugly. His injuries were recovering quickly, but the speed of recovery was not as fast as expected. With his strength, he should have been able to recover quickly no matter what kind of attack he suffered. But in reality, his recovery was very slow. Although it was still recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye, it was far from his peak instantaneous recovery. The reason for this was the long blade in Yi Shiwen's hand. If it weren't for this long blade, Yi Shiwen wouldn't have been able to pose a fatal threat to him. After all, Yi Shiwen's surge was only the energy that wasn't easy to deal with. And although that energy was difficult to deal with, it was only difficult to deal with. The real threat was the long saber. Earlier, Xiao Chen was torn into pieces, injuring his essence and not recovering yet. Furthermore, the metal-attributed laws in this saber were simply too tyrannical. He had never seen such tyrannical metal-attributed laws before. This was completely different from the metal-attributed laws of the martial epoch. The metal-attributed laws of the martial epoch had been integrated when the world was created. The so-called 5 elements reinforced and restrained each other. This was also the law of the martial epoch. However, the heptagold epoch was different. That was a place where only metal-attributed laws existed. Everything evolved from the heptagold origin. There was no such thing as mutual promotion or restraint. The heptagold origin was everything. Hence, it was incredibly ferocious, more than 10 times more tyrannical than the metal-attributed laws of the martial epoch. Even the purest metal elemental essence in the world was not as pure as the Gungjin ancestral chi. It was not a Dao item, but in terms of sharpness, it was more terrifying than ordinary Dao items. Even the Moon City Lord had never seen it before. It was definitely a remnant from the ancient epoch. Furthermore, the Moon City Lord thought about how the Middle Heavenly Venerate had succeeded in becoming a Middle Heavenly Venerate by destroying the Heptagold epoch, becoming the Vice-Emperor of the Fortune Divine Dynasty. He already had some understanding of the origins of this saber. He also coveted it. If he had such a saber back then, he would have been able to break the Middle Heavenly Venerate's seal. Then, he would not have been sealed by the Middle Heavenly Venerate. He might have even been able to pose a threat to the Middle Heavenly Venerate and turn the tables. However, he had no other choice now. He had to eliminate the huge threat that was Yi Shiwen first. Ha 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 ha. I think you are really out of your mind. To think that you want to exchange injuries with me. Can you beat me? The Moon City Lord laughed heartily. As a peak celestial master, his recovery ability was above Yi Shiwen's. Moreover, Yi Shiwen could die in his own hands at any time. Yet, he still dared to play the game of exchanging injuries with him. It had to be known that only those with stronger physical bodies and stronger recovery abilities would make such a choice. Humph! Yi Shiwen did not say anything and continued to attack. Since you want to die, then I will fulfill your wish. The Moon City Lord's fighting spirit also soared. Ever since he became the Moon City Lord, he had rarely fought so fiercely. Yi Shiwen had already stimulated the ferocious fighting spirit in the depths of his heart. The Moon City Lord attacked again. He held the bright moon in his hand and faced Yi Shiwen. Boom! 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 Loud explosions rang out. In an instant, the two sides had exchanged thousands of moves. Neither of them knew how many times they had been hit by each other. The attacks of the Moon City Lord continued to fall on Yi Shiwen's body, tearing open his flesh again and again. Blood splattered everywhere, and bone fragments flew everywhere. However, his counterattack was equally sharp. Relying on a long blade formed from gung metal ancestral chi, he repeatedly left huge wounds on the Moon City Lord's body. Both sides had already lost themselves in the fight. It could be said that this was almost a dead end for Yi Shiwen. However, it was not much better for the Moon City Lord. After Yi Shiwen's torment, his vitality was greatly damaged. He did not know how long it would take for him to fully recover. In his opinion, Yi Shiwen was like a crazy ferocious beast that wanted to bite off a piece of flesh from his body even if he died. However, he didn't notice that Yi Shiwen had taken away all of his flesh and blood. Even if he saw it, he wouldn't care about it. After all, it was just a little bit of flesh and blood. Who would care about it when such a big battle was about to break out? Moreover, Yi Shiwen did not know how many pieces of flesh and bones had flown out of his body. It was even more serious than the Moon City Lord's. Yi Shiwen seemed to be unable to hold on any longer. He was on the verge of collapse, and his entire body was covered in blood. It was unknown how much heavenly venerate blood he had lost. Any bit of this blood could be sold for a sky-high price in the outside world. Ha 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 ha, Wu Zun, you have reached the final moment. Watch me send you on your final journey. The Moon City Lord could already see that Yi Shiwen had reached his limit. One more time and he would die. Humph. Do you really think I have reached the end of my road? Yi Shiwen snorted coldly. You still dare to be stubborn? Do you think you can hide your situation from me? Do you still have the ability? The Moon City Lord could naturally see that Yi Shiwen was simply an arrow at the end of its flight. He laughed out loud. Although there were countless scars on his body at this time, he was still much better than Yi Shiwen. Idiot, haven't you discovered it yet? The corners of Yi Shiwen's mouth drew back. He felt an incomparable pain, but he still pulled out a smile and said, Discovered what? The Moon City Lord couldn't understand, but he immediately discovered the problem that Yi Shiwen mentioned because he didn't know when Yi Shiwen had already appeared in front of him. In order to avoid being ambushed by Yi Shiwen again, he had been maintaining a certain distance from Yi Shiwen since the first time he had been ambushed. Although he was not weak in terms of close combat, he was not stupid either. He could also see that Yi Shiwen was stronger and more terrifying than him in this aspect. At this time, he naturally would not use his weakness to attack the enemy's strength. For a heavenly venerate, a battle of life and death could be considered face-to-face even if they were thousands of miles apart. This was because the attack power of a heavenly venerate was really terrifying. In the Fortune God dynasty, a heavenly venerate's attack range could even cover a small half of the eastern region. Although it could not cover the entire eastern region, that was also because the eastern region was too vast. It was as vast as smoke and simply immeasurable. However, if the movement ability of a heavenly venerate was taken into account, it would not be wrong to say that a heavenly venerate could cover the entire eastern region with their attacks. But now, the distance between him and Yi Shiwen was less than 1,000 miles. This distance was simply the distance of a sneak attack. Originally, this was nothing. Yi Shiwen could sneak attack him from this position, and he could also sneak attack Yi Shiwen. It was really not a big deal. However, Yi Shiwen's words gave him a strong sense of crisis. It was only 1,000 miles. Sure enough, Yi Shiwen had just finished speaking when his figure had already arrived in front of the Moon City Lord. Not good. The Moon City Lord immediately understood why Yi Shiwen acted so abnormally before. Yi Shiwen actually traded injuries with him despite being seriously injured. In the beginning, the Moon City Lord speculated that Yi Shiwen was like a crazy fierce beast at this time, fighting like a cornered beast. He wanted to bite off a piece of flesh from his body even if he died. However, it seemed that this was not the case at all. Yi Shiwen had long prepared for this. This was simply his plan. He had used a series of violent battles to lower his vigilance to the lowest level. So much so that he was actually unaware of Yi Shiwen's approach. Such a distance was simply nothing in a battle. And this was the illusion that Yi Shiwen wanted him to have. The Moon City Lord, who suddenly understood, felt a chill down his spine. However, it was too late. Yi Shiwen had already arrived in front of him. The Martial Supreme Seal flew out from the top of his head and transformed into the Fortune Realm. It immediately suppressed the Moon City Lord. Even if it was only for a short period of time, it was enough for him. Universe Creation Palm. Yi Shiwen's palm fell and slapped the Moon City Lord. Although the Moon City Lord's physical body was extremely strong, it was useless in front of the Universe Creation Palm that could reverse his strength. It directly exploded. However, this was only the first step. Immediately after, the long saber formed by the Gung Metal Ancestral Chi instantly slashed down. A white saber light slashed out and blasted into the Moon City Lord's body. Seeing that the Moon City Lord's spirit was about to be destroyed by the saber, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His entire body instantly turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Martial Supreme, just you wait. I will definitely not let you go. Chapter 35:12. Yi Shiwen could not help but heave a sigh of relief as he watched the Moon City Lord flee. At this time, the Moon City Lord was already on the verge of death. The previous exchange of injuries was just a strategy that Yi Shiwen had come up with, and that final blow was the real trump card. Yi Shiwen had concentrated all of his martial power to inflict serious injuries on the Moon City's City Lord, allowing him to escape. However, Yi Shiwen felt somewhat regretful in his heart. He had thought that he would be able to kill the Moon City's City Lord, but the reality was that he had only managed to inflict serious injuries on him. The Moon City Lord was on his last breath. Although he had used a secret technique to escape at the cost of damaging his Great Tao Foundation, Yi Shiwen could still catch up and kill him if he was at his peak. In fact, Yi Shiwen himself was already on the verge of death. He might even be weaker than the Moon City Lord. However, the Moon City Lord, who had already been frightened by Yi Shiwen, would not turn back. Although he had guessed that Yi Shiwen might be an arrow at the end of its flight, he did not dare take the risk. This was because he had already misjudged many times before. Each time, he thought that Yi Shiwen should be an arrow at the end of its flight and would definitely die. However, Yi Shiwen always exceeded his expectations. Little by little, he went from a state of no injuries to minor injuries, serious injuries, and finally dying. All of this was premeditated by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's deep thoughts shocked him. He could not see through how many trump cards Yi Shiwen had. Only someone whose trump cards could not be seen through could make the Moon City Lord so afraid. Even if he had guessed some of Yi Shiwen's current situation, he did not dare to return. He would not even admit that he was afraid of Yi Shiwen. Huff, huff, huff. Yi Shiwen panted heavily. After confirming that the Moon City Lord would not return, he heaved a sigh of relief. He, who had withdrawn from the state of human one, felt extremely weak. At this time, his body seemed to have been swept by a storm. Countless cells were torn apart, and his meridians were in a mess. His internal organs were in severe pain, and it was difficult to even mobilize his magic power. Now, his skills were almost falling from the heavenly venerate realm. Not to mention being invincible in the past, almost any heavenly venerate could kill him now. Even a peak imperial lord had such a possibility. With such a serious injury, even his phoenix regeneration technique couldn't heal it in a short period of time. There was still the violent energy of the supreme ancestral symbol remaining in his body. It wouldn't be possible to remove it in a short period of time. He finally understood why Heaven Talisman Immortal Venerable was so weak back then, so weak that even a fourth realm demon Venerable could chase him to the brink of death. It wasn't that she was too weak, but the side effects of using the supreme ancestral symbol were too great. The supreme ancestral symbol was indeed very powerful, but the side effects were too severe. Yi Shiwen's realm was very strong. Moreover, he had refined the seventh metal ancestral qi. Otherwise, his body would have exploded and he would have died. After resting for a while and recovering some spiritual power, Yi Shiwen immediately decided to leave this place. He wasn't afraid that the blood that filled the sky would attract the ferocious beasts in the chaos because he had already retrieved it. Especially his own, each drop required 100 years to refine. It was too precious. The blood essence of the Moon City Lord was also very precious. Each drop contained a huge amount of energy. Just some of the remaining blood essence was already much more energy than the blood essence of an ordinary heavenly venerable. Naturally, Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate to use it to water the world tree. It was only right for the victor to clean up the battlefield. The terrifying aura emitted from the battle between Yi Shiwen and the Moon City Lord was enough to scare away the ferocious beasts of the chaos. For a long time, this place would become a forbidden area for them. They wouldn't dare to approach it. Not to mention that the sweeping laws turned into various martial arts attacks that patrolled the entire battlefield. It was as if the battle between Yi Shiwen and the Moon City Lord was still going on. It would never stop. It would be entangled and fight for eternity. They were like their predecessors in the past. A great battle left an everlasting battlefield. If the ferocious beasts barged in, they would undoubtedly die. It was impossible for them to survive. After countless years, this place might evolve into an extremely dangerous place and become a target for future generations to explore. As they continued to explore legends, they had already started to leave legends and myths for future generations. However, Yi Shiwen knew that the Moon City Lord and the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable had already joined forces. Although the Moon City Lord was forced to flee, the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable was still unharmed. If Yi Shiwen continued to stay, even if he wouldn't be harassed by the ferocious beasts of the chaos, the probability of encountering the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable was definitely 100%. However, Yi Shiwen was somewhat lost in this chaos. He didn't know where he had run into the chaos while fleeing. There was no direction in the chaos. Up, down, left, right, north, south, east, west. None of these directions existed here. Yi Shiwen could only use the location of the martial epoch to determine his direction. However, he could no longer sense the location of the martial epoch. On one hand, it was indeed because he had run too far earlier. Heavenly Venerables were rushing at full speed in the opposite direction of the martial epoch. This period of time was enough for him to run far enough. On the other hand, he was too weak now. His magic power wasn't even 1% of his peak. This position was already beyond his limit. No matter what, it is most important to leave this place first. Yi Shiwen exited from the state of merging with one. His external injuries had mostly recovered. From the outside, he seemed to have returned to his usual appearance. However, only he knew how serious his internal injuries were. Not even half a day had passed after Yi Shiwen had left when a figure swept across the entire sky with demonic energy. The remnant attacks and principles of both sides on the battlefield were nothing in front of this person. That pair of eyes revealed extreme power and evilness. If Yi Shiwen were here, he would recognize that this person was none other than the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate. Everything was as Yi Shiwen expected. After the Moon City Lord fled, he ran into the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate. The Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate had just escaped from the Sun City Lord's encirclement and damaged some of his foundations. However, when he saw the Moon City Lord in this state, he was still shocked. When the Moon City Lord presided over Moon City, many ancient epochs experts suffered at his hands. The Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate had fought with the Moon City Lord before. Naturally, he understood that the Moon City Lord was not someone easy to deal with. What kind of person could beat up the Moon City Lord to such a state? This was simply incredible. At that time, the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate even had some greedy thoughts. He wanted to kill the Moon City Lord on the spot to make up for his losses. After devouring the Moon City Lord's origin energy, he might even be able to advance further. The Moon City Lord clearly saw through the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate's thoughts. In reality, the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate was working with the demonic Tao epoch. However, that did not mean that he did not know the demonic Tao epoch's style of doing things. When useful, the demonic Tao epoch would treat the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate with respect. However, if the demonic Tao epoch was useless, only death awaited. When it came to turning hostile and being heartless, it could be said to be the best among the many epochs. How could he not be on guard at all? He sneered at the Scarlet Serpent Demon Elder. If the Scarlet Serpent Demon Elder dared to attack him, he would rather self-destruct than let the Scarlet Serpent Demon Elder succeed. It would be better for him to die in Yi Shiwen's hands than to be swallowed by the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable. He had painstakingly escaped from Yi Shiwen's hands. However, he didn't want to be swallowed by the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable. The Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerate also saw the determination of the City Lord of Moon City. He knew that a person of that level would at least have this much willpower. He immediately gave up on the idea of attacking. Furthermore, Moon City's City Lord was someone that the demonic path epoch's Empyreans had discussed and ordered to be rescued. He could be considered a benchmark. This would allow the people of the other epochs to see the benefits of working with them and relying on them. If they killed him now, then the demonic epoch's reputation would be tarnished. This was because Moon City's City Lord was not an ordinary sovereign emperor or Empyrean. If he died, then so be it. No one would care. He was a super expert whose name shook countless epochs. There were not many people like him in the entire martial epoch. Even such a person was killed by the demonic path epoch. At that time, who would dare to rely on the demonic path epoch? It would not be in line with the demonic path epoch's strategy. Hence, even the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable could only give up. However, the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable learned from the Moon City's City Lord that the other person he fought was Yi Shiwen, who was severely injured and on the verge of death. Although the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable did not have a deep impression of Yi Shiwen, there was one thing that was enough to change his opinion of Yi Shiwen. To think that the arrogant Moon City's City Lord had been beaten to such a state. If the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable had not seen it for himself, he would not have believed it. How could such a person be simple? Yi Shiwen would definitely become a major character of the martial epoch in the future. This made the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable want to kill Yi Shiwen. He quickly comforted the Moon City's city lord and got the demon venerates under him to take care of the city lord. Then, he personally rushed to the place the Moon City's city lord had indicated. If Yi Shiwen had not left yet, he would kill Yi Shiwen and resolve this problem in one fell swoop. Unfortunately, Yi Shiwen was not stupid enough to stay behind and let the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable kill him. Hence, when the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable arrived, he could only see that the entire primal chaos was a mess from the fight between the two sides. From the traces of the fight and the divine laws flying in the sky, the Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable could imagine how intense the fight between the two sides had been. The Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable could even vaguely deduce some parts of the fight from the traces. His fear of Yi Shiwen continued to increase. He used such a secret technique, so he must be severely injured. He could not have gotten far. Pass down my orders. Have the Demonic Path Epic Battlefield arrange for people to be stationed on the main road. Once they find a Martial Venerable, kill him immediately without question. The Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable waved his hand, and a talisman flew out. It carried his will and entered the primal chaos. The Scarlet Serpent Demon Venerable stood firmly on the battlefield where the two fought. His eyes flickered with a bright light. No one knew what he was thinking. Chapter 35:13. It was an ancient city with an unimaginable age. No one could tell the origin of the layout of this city. The city walls were engraved with the marks of time. Time had left mottled traces on them, but they still stood tall in the primal chaos. To build a city in the primal chaos without the protection of the laws of heaven and earth, this was more difficult than ascending to the heavens. Even with the might of the Fortune Heavenly Monarch and the wealth of the Fortune Divine Dynasty, they only managed to build one of the 10 great divine cities. The others were just satellite cities that relied on the protection of the laws of the 10 great divine cities to survive. And this 7 absolute city was such a city. It had existed for a very long time, even longer than the 10 great divine cities. No one knew when it was built. They only knew that this 7 absolute city had been here for as long as people could remember, and it had already been sculpted by time. No one had seen it when it was built. There were even more shocking rumors that this city had already appeared at the beginning of the martial epoch. Since time immemorial, its location had never changed, as if it had existed for eternity in the primal chaos. Some people even speculated that this 7 absolute city might be a creation from a few epochs before. But even if it was an antique from a few epochs before, what they said was even more shocking. This was because this 7 absolute city had already existed several epochs before. It was just that it had been too long. After experiencing the great apocalypse again and again, many antiques had either died or fallen into a deep slumber. Many of the super powerhouses of the ancient epochs had actually only achieved the Tao in the recent epoch. Every time the great apocalypse occurred, those below the Emperor realm would basically be annihilated. Emperor realm emperors would find it hard to protect themselves. Although heavenly venerables could protect themselves, many of them died. Hence, when mentioning the great apocalypse, heavenly venerables' expressions would change. It was unimaginably terrifying. On the other hand, this 7 absolute city was able to survive time and time again from the great apocalypse of the heavens and the earth as if it hadn't changed since time immemorial. This undoubtedly caused many people to guess that there was definitely an extraordinary expert residing in this city. In fact, this city did indeed have its own order. Some powerhouses of the ancient epochs had settled down here and become the natives of this place. Slowly, they had become the guardians of this place. This 7 absolute city had also slowly become a trading city for information and resources between the various ancient epochs. As a result, it had become extremely prosperous. Even the powerful demonic epoch hadn't set their sights on the 7 absolute city. It wasn't because of how terrifying the natives in this city were, but because of the strength of the rumored 7 Absolute City Lord, the 7 Absolute City Lord. According to the ancient legends, when the 7 Absolute City was first established, it had indeed been besieged by the joint forces of several ancient epics. How could an ordinary city lord compare to the ancient epics? 7 Absolute City Lords' army. Just one 7 Absolute City 7 Absolute City Lord could take it. However, under the circumstances of these great ancient epics joining hands, 7 Absolute City still stood tall. It was even to the extent where at the most crucial moment, a matchless figure took action. With his own strength, he defeated the joint forces of these few people and killed countless experts. In the end, these people suffered great losses and directly retreated. This person was the legendary 7 Absolute City Lord. He was also the person who wielded real power in the entire 7 Absolute City. No one knew the origin of the 7 Absolute City Lord. They only knew that he was very strong. He was unimaginably strong. No one could do anything to him. Although no one in the 7 Absolute City could find the 7 Absolute City Lord's figure, just his original reputation was enough to make everyone stop. Unless it was confirmed that the 7 Absolute City Lord had fallen, no one would dare to make a move even if they coveted the wealth. Therefore, this had become a place that people from various epochs liked to come to. They could exchange information and resources. They could exchange many resources that they didn't need for ordinary times for resources that they needed. Anyone who could come here, even an ordinary person who was casually walking around, was at least at the Emperor level. It was impossible for those who weren't Emperors to cross the chaos. Those who weren't Emperors were basically the descendants of the local native powerhouses. As for those with some status, it was basically only possible for heavenly masters. Yi Shiwen was sitting cross-legged on a cloud bed in a room of the largest inn in the city. He was constantly breathing. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes. There was a bit of joy in his eyes, but also a bit of a bitter smile. He simply didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What made him happy was that he had gained a lot from the battle with the City Lord of Moon City. He had originally thought that he would need a long time to truly cross the barrier of the 5th realm. He had made a breakthrough. In the battle with the City Lord of Moon City, Yi Shiwen was able to fight evenly with him with the help of the human unification state. Yi Shiwen had even seriously injured him in the end. However, at the same time, he had also used this power to let him experience the glory of a higher-level heavenly master realm in advance. He had seen many realms that he had never seen before. Of course, there was no way for him to record everything during the battle. However, he could rely on the mysterious space to completely record everything. Every minute and every second, he would be able to record everything and refine it. Since it was a battle of a higher level, every punch and every kick was a new kind of understanding for Yi Shiwen. Now, those insights that he didn't have time to think about during the previous battle, after being analyzed by the mysterious space, suddenly poured into his mind like a tide. The barrier that he had originally felt was extremely difficult and impossible to break through collapsed under this tide-like understanding. Therefore, Yi Shiwen broke through from the 4th realm to the 5th realm almost without any difficulty. This might be the easiest breakthrough he had experienced ever since he had cultivated to the Empyrean realm. His foundation was strong enough, and he had also forcibly comprehended his insights in battle. Everything was ready. All that was left was to simply push the boat along with the current. Just like that, he broke through to the 5th realm so easily. There was no difficulty at all. This battle was almost equivalent to him cultivating for thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years. Of course, this was also because his previous accumulation was indeed sufficient. He had reached the peak of the 5th realm. Otherwise, it would have been impossible in any case. Originally, stepping into the 5th realm should have made him extremely happy. With his current strength, if he stepped into the 5th realm, His fighting strength would also push the boat with the current and step into the sixth realm. Yi Shiwen was almost invincible and fearless except for high-level heavenly masters above the seventh realm. One step further and he would become a heavenly master of the seventh realm. Then, he would truly be qualified to compete for the position of Eastern Heavenly Master. He wouldn't have to rely on the recommendation of a Middle Heavenly Master. Just like a Middle Heavenly Master, he could compete for the position of Eastern Heavenly Master. In fact, no one even recommended him for the position of Middle Heavenly Master. The only reason was that he was strong enough. At his level of strength, it was more useful than any recommendation. However, dreams were beautiful. The reality was that although he had a breakthrough in his realm, his injuries hadn't healed yet. After a month of recuperation, he had only recovered a little. If it was said that he could casually encounter a heavenly master before, then his current strength was at least equivalent to the strength of a heavenly master first realm. Although it was already not bad, it was still too far away from his current realm. How could he be satisfied? Moreover, this 7 absolute city was deep in the primal chaos, far away from the epic battlefield. He didn't feel safe at all. Previously, he had been in a panic. That was why he had come to this 7 absolute city. He had used the supreme ancestral symbol to conceal his aura and disguised himself as an expert from the ancient epoch. As a person from the martial epoch, if he came to this 7 absolute city with his original appearance, he would inevitably be targeted. Although the 7 absolute city had never said that people from the martial epoch were not allowed to come, this was almost a tacit rule. This was the territory of the people from the ancient epoch. As an expert from the current martial epoch, he wouldn't normally come here if there was no reason. Moreover, since the ancient epoch and the martial epoch had fought until now, many experts had fallen. Both sides already had a deep hatred for each other. It would be very difficult to resolve it. Yi Shiwen wasn't interested in resolving it. It was all for the sake of survival. He wasn't afraid when he was at his peak. Even if others wanted to make a move on him, they would have to see if they had the strength to do so. Now that he was seriously injured, he had to be careful. It was best to be careful. After breaking through to the 5th realm, Yi Shiwen's recovery speed had increased slightly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made such progress in a month. According to his original estimation, it would take more than a few decades or even 100 years to recover to this point. After his realm increased, his understanding of many martial arts also soared. His recovery speed was much faster. Now I barely have the strength to protect myself. If I want to recover completely, I won't be able to do it in a short time. I can't stay in this 7 absolute city forever. I have to find a way to buy a primal chaos map and return to the epic battlefield. Yi Shiwen immediately decided to buy a primal chaos map before leaving. Although he couldn't tell the direction in the primal chaos, it was different. With a primal chaos map in hand, the location of some cities, some places where ferocious primal chaos beasts roamed, and many taboos and important points would be marked on it. For Yi Shiwen, who was currently seriously injured, this was naturally very important. After making up his mind, Yi Shiwen directly got off the cloud bed, pushed open the door, and left the isolated space of this room. Then, he casually laid down a formation to prevent people from barging in. Only then did he go downstairs. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.